Good morning, everyone. Hey, it is 11 a.m. Monday, 5/10, May 10th. Yes, and we are going to have a little episode today on mental well-being because, man, it has been a crap year already. Not as bad as 2020, but it's not been really that great, right? So we figured, I got my coffee. We figured that we'd let you guys call in and kind of tell us how you're, one, coping with things, how you're dealing with your mental well-being, and two, if you aren't, then vent to us. Let us know, where you're at. We'll kind of give our positions as well. Good morning, Jess, though.
Good morning.
Make sure everybody can hear you just fine. Hopefully they can.
Oh, yeah, that's the real struggle, right?
I think they can. It looks correct for a change.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Double feeding audio. Oh, there we go. Okay, it's fixed. No, I had an NDI open source open. But yes, people are pointing out is one more day, and I think that's kind of what's been weighing on me personally the most, is that, a lot of it's coming to fruition tomorrow. I've ran every scenario through my head. None of them seem to be bad outcomes. I don't know what's going to happen. It's clearly a logical dichotomy between either, Kyle shows or he doesn't show. It's one or the other. In both cases, it doesn't seem to be boding well for him. So.
Yeah, so anybody who doesn't know what's going on tomorrow, the court hearing is tomorrow for non sequitur for Kyle to show up to court and explain why he's not in civil contempt.
Yeah, so it's not going to be the criminal contempt, from what I understand. I mean, they might throw that in. We are going to ask about it, but it is a civil contempt, meaning that he has not lawfully obeyed the directives of the court, which have been in full effect. That means that if he doesn't show, there'll be an automatic, what's called what is it called? It's something for arrest. An issuance. Warrant? Well, it's a warrant, but there's a special name for it in North Carolina. They call it. Is when they do an actual arrest warrant from the bench.
We got our first caller already. Hello.
Oh, hi. I was going to let you guys open up. I didn't expect to get picked up this quickly.
Oh, that's quite all right. No, we don't mind. We don't mind.
Come on in.
Join the
Tell
fun.
us about your day and your mental health and how you're doing and how you're feeling and how you're coping.
I'm doing pretty good, all things considered. There's a lot of family stuff going on, and obviously I haven't gotten my second shot yet, so I can't hang out with anyone. So I've been coping a lot, just going online, just having group chats and things like that. That's been very helpful for me. I'm like I'm like a couple inches from going back on the sauce or something like that. Like I know I need that support.
Well, don't do that.
Yeah,
that's not. Look, I'm one of those people. I don't think that somebody who's an alcoholic is always an alcoholic, but the experts say that's usually the case. If alcohol is something that is taboo for people, then avoid it altogether. It's not going to solve anything, right? If you've had a problem in the past with alcohol, I don't think it's ever going to be a solution to start drinking again.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of people to it, and I've spiraled out before, when it's using it improperly to self-treatment. And it's not the way to go.
I wonder if there's people out there who have sort of created like online communities with their families that they can't see. So like a family Discord or a family Facebook group where it's just family doing like regular calls, being able to talk to each other. Or I was lucky. I was actually able to see my mom on Mother's Day. So that was nice. But I know there's a lot of people out there who weren't able to, and that sucks.
Yeah, my second shot's a week from today, I believe, and then I'll be able to see my father again, which has been really hard because I haven't seen him since I'm like September or October.
Yeah,
he's a fat old guy, so like I didn't want to risk it.
Yeah, that's wise. My second shot is the Moderna. It's going to be on the 28th, so I'm almost at not quite 2 weeks for the first shot, which gives, I guess, about 80% effective immunity, and then the second shot gives you about 98%, 99 or something. So, yeah. I'm not just relying on online communities too, because I noticed I've been spending so much time, especially on my own Discord, that my legs were starting to feel weird because I was like, oh shit, I'm sitting down for way too long.
and not getting enough sunlight. Like, and for a while there was the excuse of like, oh, I don't have to go outside, it's a pandemic. But yeah, I could feel the change in my mood from just not getting sunlight and exercise.
Yeah, it's important to get even if you can't really go anywhere, to be able to leave the house and isolate. I know that was like a huge thing that the like government of Ontario was pushing. They were like, listen, here's a list of activities you can do that keeps you away from people. Go for a bike ride, go take your dog for a walk. Nothing says that you can't do any of these things. You're just not allowed to like be at the park. You can go walking around your street, go hang out in your backyard if you have one. If you don't have a backyard, go wander around. And
yeah, you got a baseball field near your house. Jog around the bases a couple of times. Just anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely stand up. I have to stand up quite frequently. I can't sit for very long. And so, the dangers of sitting for a very long time is, you can get blood clots. You can get things that break off and go to your lungs. And that's not good. So I definitely try to move around.
I had a friend who sat in a chair. This was a guy I sold weed to, strangely. He sat in a chair for 2 years playing World of Warcraft.
Oh, that guy. I heard of that guy.
Oh no! There's probably lots of people.
Well, yeah, he'd. I know about. There was a guy that actually was in a. He died. He was in a game, facility, one of those internet cafes, and he was playing a game for like 70 some odd hours or whatever it was. And when he finally stood up, the blood clot broke off and killed him. Yeah.
And above all, like, at least for aesthetics, I don't want to have those weird spidery blue veins going down my legs, even if I survive something like that.
Yeah, varicose veins.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't have any of that. I actually got pretty decent legs for somebody my age. I'm not going to front. Kind of like my hands too. I always tell people, look at my hands. I mean, I don't have a wrinkle on me, man. I mean, these are the hands of an angel. Okay.
It fits your background, Steve.
Yes, it does. I mean, but I'm not even fronting. You see any? I got very few, if any, wrinkles.
I struggle because
you're doing pretty good. I'm 32 and I look like I'm 50.
I'm an idiot and I sit cross-legged all of the time.
Chester's 17. She looks 30.
I'm a very small person, so I in a computer chair I can just sit cross-legged. Yeah, so I spend a lot of time sitting cross-legged. But I also, because I'm so short, my feet don't touch the ground if I have it at a height for this. So I recently added I have this thing down here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Well, I've got the background on. No, you can't. Okay. I've got like a little box down here and I just move it over and now I can put my feet up. So I'm not sitting cross-legged the whole time.
Oh, by the way, I made sure to spread around the link because you guys are terrible at marketing.
We are. Thank you. We rely on you. We rely on word of mouth and other people to do that for us.
Yeah, we suck at it.
I can't give myself all the credit. I just have friends that also have they get networking abilities, and it's nice to be able to just have a nice web of people to help each other out.
No, it is. It's what Steve likes to say is a rising tide lifts all ships. So it's like anybody who can even help just by sharing is like there's no Kyle in here right now. We're not like, oh, I'm the show and it was successful because of me.
Look, I can get rid of her anytime. I just flick a button and she's gone. Okay, I have all the power right now.
What, like Dr. Evil? Like you press a button and her chair flips backwards and she jumps down into the furnace?
Look. Let me find...
Please help me. I'm not dead. I am terribly burnt.
Yeah, I definitely recommend people make sure
somebody
that they're
give me
moving
some
around.
aloe vera.
I also do isometrics. I'm sitting down too. I just like stretching exercises, and I got some elastic bands and stuff like that. So
I think one of the things that is really good for people to do, if you're somebody who does gaming that is in like gaming lobbies, get up and walk around in between the lobbies. So if you're like
getting some of those gaming glasses too, I've heard that's really helpful for your eyes.
Really, I've never been sure about that one, but
I have a Twitch streamer that's part of my Discord, and he says his eyes feel completely different because they stream for like 4 or 5 hours, something like that typically. And your lenses are flattening out because you have a screen so close to your face.
Yeah.
So
go outside, walk around. Do some squats.
We have
One thing that I've suggested to a lot of people who stream that frequently is stand-up desks. I think a lot of more people should be doing that.
Stand-up desk. Yeah, those are getting popular. I couldn't do that.
You got to do the ones that change. I like the changing ones. So like sometimes you can be standing if you want, and if you want to be sitting, you can be sitting. So you can switch around if you got the money for it.
So real quick, we have a minor celebrity in the live chat there, which I don't know how. Where's your check mark, James? I know you have a check mark. It's just not for showing it for some reason, but it is actually James because I checked. There is a way to actually, you know how YouTube removed the ability to go check somebody's channel. There was a way to get it back. There's actually a script for it, and I've done that. But anyways,
nice.
James Freeman, come on in. Let us know why you have not considered getting a vax or COVID shot or a flu shot. We're kind of curious. And by the way, glad you're not in jail. By the way, James is either in jail or just getting out of jail or about to go to jail or. Yeah, he has a lot of run-ins with
Is that
cops.
like just a constant state? Is that like his constant state of being?
It's constant state of being. Yeah, it's like
it's like Schrodinger's jail mate. He may or may not be
quantum
there.
Jail. That's the state of that's the state that Kyle's in right now. He's in quantum jail. We don't know if he's in jail or not till it's observed.
Oh no.
Oh no. All the Rick and Morty people are going to start talking about the multiverse now.
I love Rick and Morty. That show is brilliant. Do you know how deep that show actually is? It's very profound when it comes to philosophy.
Oh, he's one of them. Steve is one of them.
Yes, I'm a big fan. That show is deep into philosophy, and because if you think about it, no spoilers. Actually, this is full spoilers.
There's a lot of philosophy.
Rick and Morty, they're already dead. They were dead first season. These are not even the original ones, or are they? Yep. But they're not, right?
A copy of a copy of a copy.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. The original universe was long since just destroyed, and they both died, and yeah.
Oh yeah, they Cronenberg did. Right?
Was it Cronenberg?
They turned everyone into Cronenberg monsters.
Yeah, that's
Rick
right.
kept messing with genetics.
Monsters. That's what it was. Yeah, yeah. The whole world became those monsters. Yeah, so they had to flee from there to go to a different dimension.
Yeah, they just left. They just left. Killed a different Rick and Morty.
Killed the other ones that took their place. I mean, nothing, maleficent about that, and murderous and all that.
One thing I don't hear a lot of people talking about with Rick and Morty is how dramatic it is at some points. Like it's really funny, and there's cool sci-fi concepts. But there's episodes that made me cry, like real
it's
drama.
Really dark.
Like,
it's a good, yeah. But it's
the Unity episode, the end of that one, like it's try not to cry watching that. Like when Rick almost like kills himself, but all that.
Yeah, there's it still hasn't gotten as sad for me as that one episode of Futurama that will not be named.
Oh yes. Oh, don't get me started on Futurama.
The saddest thing that I've ever witnessed. The saddest show I've ever watched.
I know what you're talking about. I know. Yep,
no.
I know. I'm not even going to bring it up because you're just going to start crying.
Shall not be named. Shall not be named. But anybody who's seen it knows exactly what I'm talking about. You all know.
Yeah.
I've seen most of them.
That was early. That was like season 2 or 3. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's relatively early on.
Very sweet ending to that show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, people. Mikey was saying the second shot, kind of messed him up. He has wasn't sick until then. I haven't really been sick in the last 5 years since I quit smoking. I've been, but I haven't been like blah blah, like want to die for several days as I used to be when I smoked. So once I quit smoking, a lot of that went away. But the first shot that I had was just a very, very minor pain at the injection site. It was noticeable, but it couldn't give a crap. Put a Band-Aid on it.
I like the evil Morty.
But the second shot, most people I've talked to, it does mess with your immune system for a few days. But hey, you know what? Still nothing comparative to what the consequences are if you actually catch it without being immunized, right? Because the immunization doesn't prevent you from catching it. What it does is it lessens the symptoms if you do catch it by magnitudes. And that's the important thing. Where are you at in your immunizations yet, Chesh?
Nah, I'm nowhere. Everything's been delayed.
Canadian.
Yeah, everything got delayed. So the last I heard, it was everybody who's 40 and up. So I don't think I can get mine yet. But I also haven't looked today, so I might be able to schedule one now.
I'm lucky enough that I'm in the healthcare capital of the United States, so we all get it here.
Let me ask you. So, is
Well,
that
America's done a really good job rolling it out once it became available.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
just
brilliant
sucked
plan.
to anything else around
Yeah.
it. Inkboy42 said, "How about the Edward FMA episode?" It's not as sad as the Futurama one, but that one was that was fucked up.
They definitely implemented
Edward
the whole project to get the
Brother.
immunizations, streamlined and get them out there better than anything else I've ever seen as far as that. But let me ask you, do you think that because people are getting immunized now, that it has kind of lessened some of the mental anguish that's out there? Because people, a year ago, nobody was even wanting to go anywhere. We couldn't go anywhere for the most part. Now that people are immunized, it's opening things up, and people are allowed to go to different things. As a matter of fact, you have to have a vaccination card to fly soon, from what I understand. But do you think it's helped kind of being recognized that
I've noticed a change in my area because I do stand-up comedy, and some of the clubs are actually opening up, and I thought they were just never going to open up again.
Do you think there might be businesses that just will never recover from this?
We're never going to be the same. At least I don't think so. Like, this was a permanent alteration, at least to Western culture.
Yeah, I think culture-wise it has changed us dramatically, but I don't think anything offhand will be completely unrecoverable.
I think there are businesses that are going to be gone. Period.
Yeah.
Like particularly smaller ones. Like I don't think anything's going to happen to like Walmart, but like.
Well, what kind of business do you think is going to be gone completely? Like, we won't see again.
Microbreweries. It won't be completely gone, but there's going to be a lot of microbreweries that you did have that are going to be not.
Sure, but people still have microbreweries. I mean, what completely domain it will be gone?
Oh,
Chuck E.
you mean
Cheese.
like? Sorry, what was that?
Like no.
Chuck E. Cheese.
Well,
Chuck E. Cheese.
that's not a domain. There's still pizzerias. I'm saying what field of marketing and business or whatever do you think that is just not going to be able to recover?
I couldn't really say.
I think everything will be able to recover. Like I think like if there's it'll be individual businesses that won't be able to recover, not like a whole market.
Yeah.
Because if there was a market for it before, why wouldn't there be a market for it after the fact? I think one of the things that will change the most and will hopefully move in a more positive direction through this is schooling.
That I think might be forever changed for a while, at least for I would say a few years to a decade. I think a lot of it will be a lot more reserved and social distancing still, more hygienic. I think there'll be a lot more people concerned about washing hands and microbial things and having antiseptics, and yeah, I think that has changed.
Yeah, it's been really rough for some people. I know one of my members. I was just consoling her 20 minutes before I started this call, and she's just having a breakdown because her family has health issues, so there's no one to take care of her kids, and her kids have like disabilities and stuff, which just makes it like a nightmare. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of people
childcare.
who are having a really tough time.
Yeah. So some people are talking about the immunizations. It's not CRISPR-Cas9. It's not altering your DNA. It's an mRNA. Okay. It's not even live viral, right? It's an mRNA. So
Yeah, that's a completely different thing. They have nothing to do with
different
each
thing.
other, really.
Yeah.
Well, oh my God, I'm sure you guys have heard about. I'm sure you guys have heard about Joe Rogan with his fucking bonehead ideas that he's been disseminating.
I've seen some weird things with Joe lately. I mean, I just in the news.
I mean,
I don't watch his podcast.
he's just having some trouble being locked up all the time.
It's for me. It's as someone who's kind of a similar performer. I'm just not a millionaire. I think it's kind of a selfish thing. Like once you get used to going to the clubs and working them, and you don't have that anymore, you're just like, man, I want it again. And when you're kind of a privileged millionaire, like it feels like, oh well, the rest of the country should just change because I want to do this because I'm bored.
Well, he's an entertainer, right? I mean, and he's got some shock value, right? I mean, he's not exactly like, what's his name? Who's the shock jock from New York? What's his name?
What, Howard Stern?
Howard Stern. Yeah, it's not like he's not Howard Stern, but he still, I think, says a lot of things for just to elicit a response from people because he's always kind of been on the fringe a little bit.
Yeah, he's all over the place. He's very varied opinions politically and culturally. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to pin down exactly where he is. But as far as when you have a platform like he has, I think like, I can't stop him because of freedom of speech, but I think it's kind of irresponsible to be saying that, like, oh, if you're 21 and you're young and healthy, you don't need the vaccine. It's like, you don't know that. You're not an epidemiologist. You're not an endocrinologist. You're not a virologist. You don't know that. And there's people who've died that are perfectly healthy at that age.
That starts walking away from what would be considered free speech, though, because now you're encouraging what is harm towards people, right?
I mean, realistically, hundreds or thousands of people might die because of him making a suggestion like that. He's like one of the largest audiences ever.
Right. And it's not even just going to only affect his audience. It'll affect the people around his audience should they choose to do something about that. So when you start calling for things that are massively dangerous, you start moving away from what is considered free speech and into what is considered, I don't know if you would go so far as criminal, but things that a platform that is a private industry might just be like, no, you can't be doing that shit.
Yeah, it's morally irresponsible at the very least. Yeah. I mean, if somebody is advocating, to go drink some bleach, like, hey, Trump said drink bleach. Yeah, that's irresponsible. That needs to be shut down because it's not freedom of speech at that point. It is actually telling people misinformation that can cause them harm. And I think that platforms need to be socially responsible and say, no, we don't want that.
Yeah,
it's a real tough gray area to work through because with Trump, like, he literally had the biggest platform on the planet. So it's like a different level of irresponsibility.
And he lost them all.
I think it's also more of a gray area in America than it is in other countries. Partly because of Trump, also because he was just so out there. Other people saying stuff that's, not as like outrageous as that kind of goes under the radar of like, yeah, whatever.
Well, do you think a lot of them say things outrageous?
Don't even get me started on the clockwork gnomes.
Yeah, the clockwork gnomes. DMT.
Like, you can't just brush over that, Alex. What the fuck are the clockwork gnomes?
or clockwork elves. But do you think that maybe Joe is just realizing that he has to, be edgy to be competitive any longer? Some people have said, they used to really like Joe, and he's just not putting out the content he used to put out.
I don't know. I didn't mind his show for a long time because he had a lot of great guests. It wasn't really about him for me. A lot of his best guests, he barely had to say anything, like Neil deGrasse Tyson and people like that.
Yeah. Dr. Cross says, Rogan was always horrible. Ask your black female friends. I don't have any black friends, female or otherwise, for some reason. I don't know. Nobody likes me. I don't have any white friends either, for that matter. Female or male.
I don't listen to enough of Joe Rogan to really make an assessment because every time, like when he first started out, I was like, ugh. Then I saw a couple things where he seemed like he was improving, and I was like, it looks like he's improving. Maybe he'll get to the point where I'd be somebody who would watch him. And then it just seems to have gone downhill again. So I don't know. He never appealed to me in that way.
Yeah, his stand-up never appealed to me. I didn't hate it. It's as far as stand-up goes, I actually prefer edgier stuff. Bill Burr, Louis C.K., people like that.
I've never been.
I don't know. His stand-up never did it for me.
Yeah, I never thought he was that funny.
Yeah, it's not for everybody.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But Joe Rogan, not a big fan of the stand-up. Didn't hate it, but just me. And I don't know. Guess like I said, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Bernie Sanders, and Howard Bloom, people like that were like
he
more
had good
interesting than he was.
He didn't get in his own way like Kyle did.
I think,
until now he's getting in his own way.
Kyle, I'm sure, had delusions that he was going to be the next Joe Rogan.
Oh no! I bet Howard Stern.
Or Howard Stern, yeah.
I don't think so. Well, that's not something you want to. That's not something you want to compare to nowadays because Howard Stern's kind of like lost.
Yeah, I do not like Howard Stern. I don't know if I've ever actually enjoyed Howard Stern. I know people told me I needed to watch him and that he was really great, and then I watched like one or two, and I was just like, why do people like this guy? I have never found
him to be entertaining.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe it was because I was a teenager. I found it a little more entertaining back when he was on, I don't know, whatever network channel that was. But once I heard he was
it on Sirius Radio?
I think that's where he is now.
It was before Sirius Radio. It was when it was on cable or network television. That's what I watched, and I was okay with it as a kid. Maybe I wouldn't like it now, but once I heard him dissing on podcasters on YouTube, shitting on people like you guys, I'm like, you totally misunderstand what made you pop. You totally understand what made you popular.
Yeah, we're used to that, man. We get shit on frequently.
They're doing the same thing you were doing.
Yeah,
like
that's the end thing. You know, this shit on people. No. That's their. There are YouTubers. That's all they do is shit on people, and they actually become pretty popular. Not our shtick. No. That's for damn sure.
No, I've seen a few of them. I'm not a fan of the drama stuff.
No, it's boring. It's basal level to me. It's basically people that have nothing of interest to actually discuss it, or they just got to try to tear down other people and troll them, and it's so stupid.
Oh, we do have another caller. We should probably.
We do have another caller.
Yeah. I was going to try and be brief because I heard the other caller come in. I want to get.
I heard your tone change to talking faster.
Yeah, no, I'm trying. I try and give people space. I try and be polite about that. Mm-hmm. But what was I going to say? I'm baked. No, I always have this policy where like it doesn't benefit me to take someone else down. Someone else failing doesn't add to my life in any way.
Correct. Yep. I wish some more YouTubers had realized that.
That's a good policy, yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys want me to hop off? I want to give people space.
Oh, you can just mute it while the other person talks. If you want to stick in here, it's up to you.
Yeah, I'll
join in when you want. All right.
Yeah, it sounds good. Who we got? Who's our other caller?
Helios, I believe.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, what's up, Mr. Helios?
How's it going?
There we go. First thing, just to clarify for the mystery of Howard Stern, he got popular because he began doing things like, here's my show. We're going to put on like 3 porn stars on Sibians and record which one hits orgasm first.
Yeah, he did a lot of sexualized things on the radio because the radio, although it was, they did record all this stuff live too, but you're listening to the radio and you just have to visualize this stuff, and so he got very
edgy
popular.
McJaggerson.
Yeah.
He got popular with the edgy, horny teenagers. Yep.
I never found it interesting. Don't get me wrong. I'm nothing against porn
stars. So
he
does the same thing Disney does?
All 4 porn stars.
Yep.
But I don't. That is just boring to me. I don't find any of that type of edgy content appealing at all, to be honest with you.
Well, I imagine it would be more interesting to actually talk to them to see what their lives are like.
Yes.
Well, he would do something like that. He would do an interview with the porn star while they were trying to resist having an orgasm.
Or who had the smallest dick or something. Yeah, I think he did that once too, right?
Yeah.
I do have to admit, I can't stop laughing hysterically when Benji got fingered by Perez Hilton, but that's just me.
I recall something like that, yeah. Yeah, they did something similar on Impractical Jokers when Murr had a prostate exam. Actually had 2 doctors give him prostate exams. Guess that's the end thing, Hey.
Yeah.
That is a funny show, by the way.
Hi.
You guys watch that?
I don't know. Perez sounded pretty aggressive with the.
Yeah, no, he was enjoying it.
I was like, oh, poor guy.
But first of all, you're not a medical person. But did you guys ever watch Impractical Jokers? One of the funniest freaking shows out there. They're absolutely a riot. That is the humor that I like. I think that shit is hilarious.
Never seen it.
Yeah.
Never seen it.
So what about you, Helios?
I'm sorry. Go on.
How's your mental health? How you coping? What do you do for coping?
Well, I now go to therapy, but before that, I was terrible. I worked. I mean, I've worked in health insurance for the last 5 years, and the 5 years before that, pharmaceutical insurance.
Mm-hmm.
So my days were filled with, denying people their cancer treatment and stuff like that.
That sucks.
So, yeah.
Because they didn't have the funds to pay?
They didn't have the insurance.
Not the right insurance coverage. That are telling them, yes, that is what this costs after insurance.
The copays are ridiculous in some of them, yeah.
People think that 20% is not a lot, and
it's huge.
20%, but 20% of $10,000 is still a lot of money.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of them do think that, I just have a lesser monthly and have a higher copay. Not necessarily the way to go.
Now,
20% is huge by any metric. What happens if you lose 20% of your foot? Your life is totally changed. So, I mean, yeah.
Some of them have caps on it, but even still, that cap is usually quite high out-of-pocket expenses, right?
Every plan has a cap on it ever since the ACA came into effect. Your standard plan in America is currently a $2,000 deductible with a $4,000 out-of-pocket maximum for just like a single person who has insurance through their company. The other ones, the higher deductible plans, go with a $6,000 deductible, $12,000 out-of-pocket maximum.
That's significant.
And keep in mind, when you're paying your deductible, you're paying 100% of the cost of that.
Yeah, if you sometimes some people figure it's not even worth it to even go to get treated because their deductible is so high they can't afford it.
Well, that's the one of the things that is just bothersome and like baffling about America to me is that the number of people suffering because of the way this system is set up, and that you could fix it so easily, and you're just not. And the reason for not fixing it is pretty well non-existent. Is just it blows my mind. I don't understand. Like, why would you choose this when you know it's a problem?
Well,
and there's like a plethora of other ways to do it. Like, nobody says you have to do it this way.
Here's the reason why things aren't fixed in America, because we have shitty politicians. We have a shitty system politically.
Yep. No, it's
these are not unsolvable, unresolvable issues.
Really.
Yeah. I mean, these are things that could be solved if we had the proper political structure and the political people in power to do it.
There's people that seem to think that, oh, this is an unsolvable problem. Like, I mean, like regular people, not the politicians, but politicians are spouting that this is an unsolvable problem and this isn't a real solution over and over and over again to things that are absolutely or they'll say, oh, that's just extreme. And it's like, not dying is extreme.
Well, look how fast they got the vaccinations out. That was because there was a worldwide coordinated effort.
Yeah.
No?
Well, also, you don't know how many times I've heard people say that they're against like Medicare for all and stuff like that because they don't want to pay for someone else's medical treatment, but they're all for, private insurance. And I'm like, what do you think private insurance is? You pay your premium, that money goes into a pool, and then when someone gets sick, they pull money.
Same thing with Social Security, right? Social Security is a fund that they. By the way, when Social Security got set up, they were never supposed to dip into it. It's only supposed to be for people that were retiring. But politicians said, "Oh, we have all this money sitting there doing nothing." Right? And they started dipping into it more and more and more and more. And what happened was they started raising the age cap higher and higher and higher because of that.
But yeah, one of the big problems is people don't fundamentally understand how insurance works for that, so they can't imagine a solution, because it's like trying to ask someone to solve a math problem when they don't understand how to add or subtract.
Oh, right. I don't know what the number 4 is. Don't ask me what 4 plus 2 is, because I don't know what the number 4 is.
Yeah. And as far as mental health, I mean, it's one of those things where it's not readily visible. Like, people who interacted with me daily, who met me, would never know that I struggled with mental health. Like, a lot of my family doesn't even recognize like how much I actually struggled with it. And part of that is because, one, I'm a guy, so I was taught, hey, guys don't cry. Just keep that down, and it won't bother you. You gotta control it.
Masculinity.
I was never raised that way. I think it's perfectly normal for a guy to cry and share his emotions if they're something to be shared. I mean, I never was ever told, a real man don't cry. Never was brought up like that.
There was a whole L'Oreal commercial called with a song about big girls don't cry.
Yeah, I was never taught that by my parents. My parents encouraged me to share. I was taught that instead by the girls in my school.
Yeah.
Oh, I
weird as
shed a
that
lot of
sounds,
tears
it
over
was-
women. That
I-
God, yes.
I tried to
gonna
be
front.
like open with my
Back in the day.
emotions, to in all of that, and then when I was trying to get a girl, like none of that happened. And then I just learned, oh, if I'm open with my emotions, the girls won't like me. So then I need to not be open with my emotions.
Yeah, and women will
So-
break your heart and use your emotions. We all know this. We know how it works, right?
Yeah.
Right, men, we know.
And then that, indoctrinated me to that kind of feeling, which then I began to tell other guys, and the other guys, like my seniors, would tell me that also. So it was everyone my own age telling me this stuff. It wasn't from what like the parents and stuff were teaching. It was something that I learned being a dumbass teenager. Then it was reinforced by dumbass teenagers.
Do you think that mental health should start much earlier than it is, especially in high school and in elementary school? I just don't think they're addressing the concerns of kids. Now they are more and more now because of the pandemic, and of course,
better, yeah.
Yeah, and they finally recognize, hey, these kids need some professional people to talk to, and it's not just because of the pandemic. It is the same things that they've always had, but I think it's been more prevalent and more out there, and more amplified because of the pandemic.
Kids should be going to a psychologist the same way they go to a pediatrician for the first couple of years of their life anyway, and a clinic. The way you get a walk-in clinic in Canada, I don't know if you have them in the States. You can just walk in and see a doctor if you have like a cold or whatever. That's where most people go. They'll just go to a clinic. You don't need an appointment. You just walk in, you wait, and then they see you and they deal with whatever problem you have.
Mm-hmm.
So you ought to have the same thing available for psychology. You should be able to just walk in and be like, hey, listen, I'm having a rough day and I don't know if like something's bothering me. I just want to get like a mental health checkup the same way you
talk
get
to.
regular
I do fully agree with that. I mean,
and it should be covered by like the regular coverage that whatever your country provides, if it provides one.
Yeah.
The other caller actually didn't hear your name. You brought up a good point. Helios. You brought up a good point where, they do need that help because there's, especially in the United States, there's so many latchkey kids. So most of the kids you send to school, they spend more time with other students than they do with their parents. So they're being raised by other kids. So there probably should be other adult influences.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But the one of the things about that is that most people who end up becoming alcoholics or end up committing suicide begin showing those signs in early teenage years, like 12 to 14.
I think that there's also like a lack of understanding about what those signs are, because those signs, you had said earlier that there's not a visual, like it's not, you can't just physically see that somebody's struggling or having an issue. I think you can, because if they're showing signs particularly that easy, it's just that we don't know what they are, and knowing what they are is not common knowledge. And the more it becomes common knowledge, and the more that we're aware of it, and the more people are educated in how to how do you recognize a heart attack? Most people recognize how to see a heart attack happening in a male. They don't know how to recognize it in a female because the symptoms are different. And there are people who don't even know that the symptoms are different in a female to a male for a heart attack.
Oh, that is so many really, really, really strange scientific blunders, like anti-pregnancy meds that were tried on a group of nothing but men.
Yeah, like what the heck? How do you? Well, they didn't get pregnant. Guess it succeeded. Oh, great. Thanks.
Could have saved them the trouble with by letting them know it probably was not going to work.
I should sign up to be a test patient for in vitro. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, there you go. The more that we learn, and the more we're educated, and the more that we can recognize these things easier, the better it will be, and the more we'll be able to address how to fix the problem. But you also need a government that's actually going to, fix the problem.
Yeah. Well, another thing is
You know.
You need to begin teaching people how to recognize signs of mental health at a young age. Your health class right now just focuses on physical health.
Oh yeah,
Like-
Well, it
poorly.
focuses
Very,
a lot
poorly, too.
on puberty and sex.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
focus on nutrition as much as it should. I thought I'd learned a little bit about nutrition in elementary and grade school. Come to find out, no, I took nutrition in college in a health course that's mandatory. Everybody has to take at least a health
So
course.
what with that bullshit
And,
pyramid they
you
give
learn
you
about,
where they're
you
like,
actually learn with
you
fats,
need
carbohydrates,
18
and proteins and
servings
stuff.
of bread.
Yeah, all that stuff is nonsense. It wasn't until I actually took this course and go, oh, this is what an actual carbohydrate is, and fats and proteins and calories and kilocalories and shit.
I think it's also important to teach people who do have mental health issues that they're not an excuse for inappropriate behavior. And
No.
it's on you to be able to learn how to cope and manage the issues that you do and do not have. You can have expectations, like other people ought to respect you and people should, care about each other, but you can't demand that other people behave a specific way in their life because you can't handle something.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
Yeah.
on you.
I mean, I understand, if you have certain, health issues where you react incredibly bad to XYZ thing. If you have a
trigger.
nut,
Yeah.
if you have, a nut allergy, it's okay to ask people when you're going to their house, don't cook food with nuts
Well,
in it.
absolutely.
You may kill me.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have an extreme trigger like that, it's okay then to ask the people, hey, this is something that really harms me. Can we please not do that?
Yep.
But it's not okay for I get scratch, I'm allergic to cats, but it's just the kind where I get a runny nose and eyes. Can you please take your cat to the vet that day or something? No, that's
No,
not. It takes
euthanize.
some
No,
Benadryl.
you're not allowed to have a cat because
Or-
I'm allergic to cats.
Or some
Yeah.
people say, "Oh, can you just make something that's gluten free?" When the chances of them actually having a gluten problem or things of that nature is very slim. Most people have no problem with gluten at all.
Well, there's also
That's the in thing,
That actually,
you also have to accept if people tell you no. So if you say, hey, listen, I have this thing that triggers me really, really badly, say I'm going to pick something arbitrary. You're having a movie night and somebody's like, listen, I have a really bad trigger to horror stuff. Can we not watch a horror movie? And they're like, we planned Saw for today. I can't really, I don't want to change it.
Let's talk about that because I've had to deal with that over the weekend from one of my members who was trying to dictate. I have a very active VC. We get a lot of people in there, and I try and make sure because I'm mean if no one listens. I try and make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak and that no one's dictating everyone else's speech. And this one person kept saying they hate pro wrestling. And some of my members like pro wrestling, and we'll talk about it for a couple of minutes, and they'll just be like, "Oh my, this again," and leave, I give a shit.
Yeah, it's
And
then
it's
just
no, you
leave,
can't
right?
dictate other people's speech in a community.
Yeah.
Real quick, hey, Elias, do you have a lapel mic?
Yes.
Yeah, it's rubbing against your shirt.
That's one moment. This should fix it.
There you go.
Yeah, that's way better.
You always tell.
I think
lapel
that
mics.
I think it's fine to have triggers and it's good to be able to recognize what those are, but you also have to respect when people decide that they don't want to it's not that they don't respect those, they just don't want to change whatever they're doing based on your trigger. So you can't tell other people they're not allowed to ever do this thing. You don't get to choose that.
That was
So if they've
exactly my
planned something-
problem with it. That was exactly my problem with it because I don't like pro wrestling. I don't mind if they want to talk about it for a couple of minutes. If they're talking about it for an extended length of time, I'll be mature and just be like, okay, it's not for me. I'm not going to rag on them and say everything you like is stupid.
That's what I look. I'm no interested in wrestling,
step
and I
away,
don't engage in those discussions.
either be patient and let them have their conversation and go make food or do some push-ups while they're talking about whatever, and then continue back with the conversation when it switches, or be like, oh, I'll be right back, I gotta go for a little bit, leave and then come back later, or just be like, oh, I gotta go, or if you guys are gonna watch pro wrestling tonight, I'm just not gonna, you guys have fun, yada yada yada. Don't guilt trip people into watching
Duncan
what
Peasants,
you want
right? I mean, Ben and Billy love wrestling. I'm not a fan of it, but I don't sit there and go, "Hey, on your show tonight, don't talk about wrestling." That'd be like ridiculous,
Oh yeah, no, I've heard from them talking about it. Why their chat is just bitching constantly, like, oh, wrestling again. It's like, just don't watch. I don't really watch Drunken Peasants, but when I did, I watched for the news segments. If they talked about wrestling, I just watched something else for a while, because I knew they'd be back to stuff that I was more interested in, other segments.
I do that with most YouTube channels. I watch the episodes and stuff that I want to, and the rest
Oh my God,
I know,
Steve
weird,
is
right?
talking about the definition of atheism again. Ugh.
Those are actually the more popular ones anymore. I don't know, man.
Yeah, that's actually a problem that my brother has run into. Is he's one of those people who would make like his displeasure with something known, and I'm like, you gotta shut up about it. We get it, you don't like it, but
it just comes off.
The
as
world
whiny.
doesn't revolve around you.
I love when people tell me what I should and shouldn't have on my channel. I'm like, oh, really?
I tell Steve what he should and shouldn't have on his channel all the time, but it's just my opinion, and he can take it or leave it.
No.
Well, I mean, I do, but like on my server, but I'm very fair to people, and like I'm not to be fucked with. I'm the king there, okay? Like if anyone's going to dictate speech, it's going to be me, and it's going to be for a good reason. You were definitely doing something wrong. I'm not like that. Most people don't even know that I run my own server. They don't know that it's mine.
Yeah, there's a difference between like allowing like. Letting people dictate whatever and kicking out somebody who's being racist. Like that's a whole other conversation, and people will try to equate those
especially when
things,
it's upsetting people
and it's like,
too. When it totally changes the mood of a hangout, and you're like, okay, you're just making a bad day for everybody.
Yeah.
There is a very big difference between people find this boring and literally telling women to get back into their kitchen. They're not the same things. They're not like. One's offensive, one's harmful, and the other one's just dull.
These are not the same
one thing in
situation,
particular, saying someone's art that they like is stupid. Is like that's really offensive to me because it's like that's an extension of them. That's something they like, and you're calling part of them stupid. Like just because you don't like it, not everyone is you.
Yeah, the thing is when it comes to stuff like that, things like that get complicated really fast. And like if you're dealing with somebody who has some kind of mental health issue, or you're having like a bad mental health day and you need support, there's different places to go for those things. You can't just be like, no, listen, everybody needs me right now, and expect everybody to just kowtow to you, because that's not reasonable. It shouldn't be expected. But there are places that are more designed for that. That are like, okay, listen, you're having a problem right now. We're here to support you. Or if you go to people and say, hey, listen, I'm having a really bad day right now. I could really use some support. Can you guys help me out? That's a lot different than dictating to people that, no, whatever you're talking about right now is stupid. We need to talk about whatever I want to talk about right this very second, because I'm triggered if you don't.
No.
So the person I talked about is not the worst, by the way. I had a member that we had to get rid of because of homophobic things that kept coming up, and that's not something I allow at all on my server. No racism, no homophobia. And they didn't know anything. They were completely ignorant of every subject, so they just get pissed off when we weren't just talking about fun dip or fucking candy or whatever the fuck that member was like obsessed with that day, and then get annoyed, especially annoyed that they didn't have my sole attention. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to be a community leader. I'm here for all of you.
That sounds like most of Facebook. I get a lot of people in Facebook groups that clearly have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They're the most ignorant, inept people I've ever had in my life had to deal with, and yet they're giving people information that's completely wrong. Doesn't matter whether it's philosophy, science, medicine, nothing. They absolutely are completely moronic. And yet, if you say, look, I'm not interested in having a conversation with you, they take it so personally. It's like, no, you're not in a level to even have a intelligent conversation with. And you have to run your Facebook groups like that, your Discord groups like that. I mean, if not, you just get overrun by idiots.
I want to know what people use to help with their mental state or like their attitude or where they are at a time with food. Do you guys use any food stuff? Because I know there's lots of people who will like.
You mean we drowned our issues with food? sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna front. Food is very cathartic. You know that I've been trying to diet for quite some time. It's hit or miss. I have lost some weight, absolutely. But diet's a very big thing to me. I do, we actually compare what we make. She'll make a dish and she'll show it, and I'm like, that looks pretty good. And I'll make something like I made some nacho cheese sauce. I made a roux, then I made a bechamel, and I put some cheese in it. And I put some really kind of a mild salsa, a little spicy.
Steve's being fancy.
Yeah, was that But I so we use these things like food to kind of like forget about everything else because it's like, oh, this is so good, It just
I heard
I feel
Danny's
like
on
the preparation of food has been very therapeutic for me. Like yesterday for Mother's Day, I made my mom egg Benedict for the morning, and
awesome.
made her a nice chicken chili for dinner.
See, I am kind of like the opposite way. When I'm feeling down, I don't want to cook and stuff like that. So I go to like a favorite restaurant or a diner, like the greasiest spoon restaurant that I can find. I love. I'm not going to say any names of restaurants just because I don't want to dox where I live.
Yeah.
But like when I'm feeling bad, it is just go out, order just grease falling off of it, hamburgers or scrambled eggs, omelets, stuff like that.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with going to Denny's and getting like a $4 like biscuits and gravy plate once in a while.
Oh, the Denny's, the 246 thing. What was it?
I've
2468?
never been to Denny's. I have been to IHOP though, and I loved it.
IHOP has better breakfast. I mean, if you really want like pancakes and just smothered, with whipped cream and chocolate, IHOP is the way to go. But I'm happy with
breakfast is my favorite type of food.
Oh, I need breakfast, morning, noon, and lunch, man, for evening.
See, I grew up
barbecuing.
I can't barbecue
I grew up
with
in a
shit.
family that owns a restaurant.
Oh.
And that's why I think that is for me, because that was the type of restaurant we had, was a cafe. But I also am very spoiled by that because now I can't go to places like Denny's and order their biscuits and gravy because I order Denny's biscuits and gravy and I'm just disappointed. I'm like, this thing sucks.
It's ruined for you. One of the things that I think that helps when it comes to things like food is like the taste and the smell and the prep time takes you away from anything else that's going on. You're focused on making the food and then you're smelling. There's like a lot of stimulation going on with like you're listening to the sizzling of whatever you're making. You're smelling whatever's coming in. You're being physical and moving around and standing up and timing things and thinking about what you need to do next. It focuses your mind on whatever it is that you're doing at the time, which removes you from whatever nonsense you've got going on. But smells are such a big thing for your brain. So if you have if you're having a good day, it's beneficial for you to light a certain candle or a certain scent or a certain smell. And then you associate that good day and that happy time with that smell. And so when you're having a bad day, you can light that smell and then it will your brain will like switch to oh, hey, I remember that smell. Let me remember all this good stuff. And I think that's something we need to teach kids from a younger age. So if your kids have,
I believe smell is one of the most one of your senses that's the most tied to your memory.
You know what? You want like smells that stand out to me the most? Sugar cookie and pumpkin.
Well, pumpkin.
Yeah,
like pumpkin spice?
Pumpkin spice. Yeah, well, pumpkin or pumpkin spice especially. But that sugar cookie smell, like when you have these candles that are scented and they have that amazing sugar cookie smell, that to me is one of the most potent things I could possibly ever imagine as far as bringing back memories. When people are baking.
There's a sometimes certain detergent. It smells like that. But if we start teaching kids that early on, you can have this is the smell for math This is the smell for English. This is the smell for science class. And then you could just have your little incense stick at school being like, oh, I have a math test today. Let me get in math mode.
So Cheshire, I have a challenger to my logical proofs that have been reviewed by several mathematicians, several PhDs. I'm going to be talking to Dr. Malik on one of his papers that I'd done a review already on, and he liked it. And I have obviously, the atheist semantic collapse argument that he seems to like. And I have somebody from one of the Facebook groups that would love for me to explain some of this stuff in very simple, easy to understand first grade English. So he's going to call in here. Hopefully we'll get him in, and I'm up for the challenge. I mean,
is this happening right now?
Happening right now. He's listening in.
Oh hell yeah! All right, you two, get the hell out of here. We gotta have this thing.
This is
I want to hear this. I want to get
this is
back.
how I deal with my mental health issues, right? Because we all have mental health well-being things. We want to be in good mental health. I take on challengers to explain concepts so they probably wouldn't never understand, because they've been so led astray by misinformation out there that when they actually are exposed to things like logic, reason, critical thinking, and things of that nature, they don't know how to process it. A lot of them have cognitive dissonance because this one person had said, hey, show me a logical proof. Okay, I showed him 3. He didn't understand any of them, and one of them was a simple modus ponens. So why would you ask somebody for modus ponens or some kind of proof if you don't even understand what a logical proof looks like? You don't know what validity is or soundness. Why would you ever say, hey, look, you say you can prove something. Prove something.
Just saying. I'll give you guys some space to speak with him. I'll still be listening.
Right. So Michael Bell is in the live chat. The number to call is on the screen, and the pin is on the top. So he's going to come in here. I'm going to explain to him what a simple logical argument would be when it comes to validity, when it comes to rule of inference, and then soundness, which is the truth of the premises. So,
Helios, can you do me a favor and mute, please?
Oh, am I not muted?
So
Michael, there we go. Thank you.
We're clearing the path for you. Open lines for you to call in. And by the way, just so
I'm excited.
how
Bearded Heretic.
How many videos do I have on YouTube, Chesh?
I don't know.
It's around
a lot.
It's around 2,000. Yeah.
Many.
And how many PhDs have I had conversations with, engaging on
a lot?
Like things with Dr. Lawrence Krauss, Dr. Mary Schweitzer, Dr. P.Z. Myers, Dr. Fuzz Rana, Dr. Hugh Ross, Dr. Jeff Swearing.
Are you talking like
Dr.
individual, like the number of times they've come on, or the number of individuals? Because those are two different questions.
The number of PhDs I've probably had on.
I can say I've had sex with 2 people, but I might have still had a lot of sex. You know what I mean?
I would say it's about 6 or 7 score, give or take. Well, maybe not that many.
6 or 7
five
score.
About 100
in a fortnight.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a lot. I mean, I've had a lot of PhDs I've engaged with. So, I have a video with 500,000 views with talking with people. So I mean, use words. He says, "Okay, we are done." Well, these are called words. These words convey messages, and they're what they call signifiers. A word is a signifier that conveys a certain type of meaning, because words don't have intrinsic meanings. So when I'm expressing things to you, I'm using words that you should have what's called a perlocutionary act, has an influence on you to recognize what they are to be determined for some kind of meaning.
Steve is in a mode now.
This is not the case, Michael? So, Michael.
Well, I think it's more confusing as to how are you having a conversation without words?
Yeah, I'm waiting for him to come in. Yeah, so.
Yeah, we're waiting.
We're waiting. I mean, how can I explain to you anything if it's one-sided and you're just in the live chat? Come on in and engage me like a person here.
Human.
Because I think it's very odd when somebody says, show me a logical proof. Then when you show them a very simple logical proof using a logical rule of inference, they say, this is word salad.
I need to get more tea. Do I need to open the wine? Is that where we're at?
Yeah, Wolfgang, I know what happens. People generally don't call in when they know they're outmatched, right? When they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about and no education in any of these topics, but pontificate on them as if they do. Wow, you love your own voice. Yes, I do. I'm a broadcaster, you idiot. I literally make a living with my voice, dumb shit. I mean, for God's sake. I mean, yes, I happen to like my voice. Is that a problem? Does that detract from any of the things that I've argued? Does that make any of my logical arguments any less valid or any less sound?
Listen. Here's the thing. Steve might love his own voice, but we want to love yours.
Yes, we want
but
to
you
love
need
yours.
to call
Yes.
you need to call in for that.
The whole point of the show is you to call in and then ask a question so I can give you real-time information on it.
The show is called Judgment Call.
I think they missed the whole point of the show here.
It's okay. I believe in them. They can press the button. I believe.
Not too difficult. The link is at the pinned on top there. Yeah,
Yeah,
other
it's right
people want to
there.
hear the conversation. Come on, Michael. Man up here, man.
All right. He says he needs 30 seconds. Okay. It's cool. We're waiting.
All
We're
right.
chill. We're
I mean, no
chill.
rush, man. We got
We're
all
chill.
day, actually. Well, technically, we have an hour. And it's funny. We were only going to go an hour today.
I told you.
I know. And I keep telling her, I said, look, if people want to call it longer, call in and we'll go longer. That's fine. But, I got a lot on my mind.
We did have a topic we were talking about and some people we were talking to, and we just put all of that on hold for this guy. So I don't know what more you could ask for.
John says, that's why I watch you, Steve, is that you're a badass debater and intellectual. Hey, look, I'm not even a front. How many people do you know that have debated where the other person has actually changed their position? That's rare. I still hold my first debate ever I had online. How many years ago that was? Wayne Fillmore changed his position and then wrote for BioLogos how a single debate changed his position, and that was on Macroevolution. So I'm proud of that, actually.
Oh yeah, Bill didn't call in. Bill was supposed to call in, wasn't he?
If he was
Or did
available.
Heretic just?
Yeah. You might want to tag him.
Okay,
Bill wanted me to, or he wanted to call in for me to explain to him how a atheist would justify holding the belief that there are no gods, and of course I would do it from an Oppie level, right? Graham Oppie argues from theoretical virtues, which I think is a very good way to go. All right, Michael.
I'm here, you dickweed. What up?
Awesome. All right. So, what's your questions? Because you said give you a logical proof. Matter of fact, do you mind if I actually read what you actually wrote?
That's the reason why I had to go back and take time out to go find the exact statements. That's the reason why I do this via computer rather than talk on the phone.
Okay.
Well,
the
but no, that's
says,
too bad for you. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So the statement you said was, by all means, share with the class this quote. Literally, give us a logical proof of something. I'm all ears. Okay. I gave you a very simple logical proof. Right, I mean, a very simple one. Wasn't one of my more complex ones. Wasn't one like my WASP argument or my atheist semantic collapse argument. It was just a simple modus ponens, was it not?
Oh, jeez. Listen, I told you use KISS and you won't do it. You know what KISS stands for?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you know what KISS stands for?
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid.
Yes, do that. You're talking to a class. I'm military. I'm a computer geek. I know four mathematical languages. Put it in simple format, English.
All right, before I do that, let me ask you, why would you ask for a logical proof if you don't know how to determine whether a proof is actually valid or sound?
I mean, if you want to add numbers and letters, all that bullshit, fine. But you know what? Anything you put in the math, you should be able to put in the words.
Sure.
So use your words. Here's what you referred me to. You referred me to somebody named Malik who says, where the lack of belief in God is combined with outright denial of God under the single label of atheism. Now, this person obviously did not read the same dictionary I did.
Dictionary.
Then it just keeps going on from there. So
okay, so let me talk to you in words. So, are you familiar with what's called argumentum ad dictionarium?
No, not at all.
It's a fallacy. It's a fallacy by using a dictionary when a dictionary doesn't. When you say, look, this is how a word is supposed to be used because the dictionary says this is how it's supposed to be used. Dictionaries don't work like that. So let me explain to you in simple terms how a dictionary actually works. Okay? So in simple lay terms, if you want to go to first grade level, what a dictionary does is
Hey, enough with the ego shit. Just say it out loud. Stop.
A dictionary describes usages. Okay? It doesn't prescribe them. In other words, it doesn't tell you how a word is to be used. It tells you how a word is being used.
It's a common denominator. If you can't agree on the same dictionary, the same verbiage.
I'm sorry the middle of my sentence interrupted the beginning of yours.
Mm-hmm.
The dictionary only gives you a very specific, very inspecific or non-specific usage. Okay, this is called sensu lato, which means very broad, rather than sensu stricto or sensu strictissimo, which means very narrow. So when you look at a dictionary, it only gives you an idea of how a word is used in certain areas of discourse. For example, you had things, or you, but somebody else did dictionary for like agnosticism. The word agnosticism has multiple usages. They're called polysemous. That word.
Oh, come on. I already know that. And if you use different dictionaries, you get different verbiages. So if you can't agree on a base point, then you are just barking up the wrong tree.
Do you understand?
So I put in a copy of the dictionary I use.
Do you understand that if you use a dictionary to try to go read a peer-reviewed paper, that peer-reviewed paper will not make any sense to you? Do you agree with that?
Can I ask a question?
I just want to fine. Let me answer that question first. If you, using your basic understanding with dictionaries, if you use your terminological understandings to apply it to a peer-reviewed paper, will that period paper make sense to you? Because I can tell you right now it won't, but do you believe that it will?
I believe that if you don't understand the commonality of the word's usage, you won't come to a mutual agreement or even an understanding whether the agreement is there or not.
I'm
Is
going to
that
take
true or
that
not?
as a no, you won't understand the paper. Okay, go ahead. Sharon.
Okay, whatever. Go ahead.
I just want to try and shift this a little bit so it might make a little bit more sense. If you're using the word theory and you're talking about a scientific theory, does it make sense to use the term in a way that it would be used in music?
No.
Does it make sense to use that term in a way that would be used in a cadence about, like, I had a theory about a movie, like an idea?
No.
Okay, so then why would it make sense to use a word in philosophy with by not using the definition that is used in philosophy if you're talking about
the common
philosophy?
understanding, right? I mean, if you read a peer review paper, the author has a certain intent, right? And that intent means that they want you to read the paper in the way that it was supposed to be read. And if you start using your own usages, either stipulative or finding what you find some common dictionary, the intent of the author is not going to be transcribed to you. You're not going to understand it. You're going to be completely lost.
So you're
what the hell is
saying,
this person talking about?
You're actually still saying what I've already just told you. We have to agree on the same term, and you're not. And you're saying no. We don't agree on that term.
On the same term if you're using a first grade dictionary and we're using actual.
There you go again. Enough with that first grade shit. Back off, buddy.
Hold on. Time out. You asked him to keep it simple, stupid.
Right. Yes,
talk to me. Explain it to take it.
You can't have it both ways. You cannot say keep it simple, stupid, and then when I talk to you,
simple doesn't mean first grade, you fucking idiot.
Let me finish. You cannot say keep it simple, stupid. Treat me like I'm an idiot who doesn't understand these things, and then when I treat you like a first grader who doesn't understand these things, you have moral outrage.
First grade versus college degree. Come on, asshole. You know the difference. I have a science degree.
Okay, hold on.
Simple words,
I have
not
a question.
B greater than A, greater than C, whatever.
Wait, what?
Wait a minute, go ahead.
Did you wait? Hold on. I need to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you just say let's keep it simple and not use that A equals B equals C?
No. Listen, I'm gonna post this over here in chat so you can see what the fuck he's been trying to type. Right there. Hold on a sec.
Yeah.
Okay.
Show him, and I will explain to you.
Okay. So what the fuck does that mean?
It means
jack shit that nobody's ever seen it before.
What that means is what's called a conditional implication. P implies Q, or if P then Q. If the condition for P, 1 plus 1 equals 3, then 2 plus 2 equals 5. That's called a conditional.
I can read it. That means jack shit to me.
Okay, so here's the thing.
Hang on. You don't understand logic, and I can explain to you if you want to learn, but don't sit there and sit there and go, oh, well, this makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense to you because you have no understanding of basic logic, like first day shit.
I see what's happened here. I understand
this is not
situation
even first grade.
now.
This is kindergarten logic.
Okay, so here's the thing that's happened. Yeah, Michael here has asked for a logical proof. He was given a logical proof and can't read it. Right, and that makes sense. But you can't say a logical proof is wrong or doesn't make any sense in general if it's just something you don't understand. That's the argument from ignorance.
And then argue that I don't know how to explain my own proof. That's just fucking
hold
stupid.
on. Let me finish. If this is a matter of you, Michael, would you like a legend? Would that help you understand what you're talking about? Or would you like something that is more like a crash course in like the basic jargon that is used in philosophy? Because philosophy, just like biology, just like theory and the word faith, has it's own terminology that it uses. If you would like,
that's why it's a soft science, anyways.
I'm not going to get into that, but this is a different conversation. Would you like I'm not sure. I think you're asking for something, and I think Steve isn't giving you what you've asked for because he thinks you're asking for something different. So can you tell me what it is that are you just not understanding the terminology and you're trying to ask him to explain? Can you tell me what the P stands for or what the Q stands for?
Okay, so perhaps let's get back to the root of the whole issue. Let's delve back. So whenever I get lost, I go back to the beginning, and I do get lost sometimes because that's what happens. Here's what he said at the very beginning of this whole freaking conversation.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so here's the deal. So when it comes to burden of proof, oh, you're still talking? I can't hear you.
Yeah, no, we're here.
Yeah, we're just listening.
Okay, so when it comes to the burden of proof, as he stated in this case, he's trying to say, according to this, let's see, the burden of proof lies upon, and according to what I can tell, especially according to what he referenced over here with Mr. Shaub Ahmed Malik's article, is that suddenly and theoretically the atheist has the burden of proof, and that's what I basically objected to.
Which is a completely different subject, but okay.
Okay,
that's
so
how you
that's
started this conversation. So I don't know where the hell you went to.
So what do you think a burden of proof means in epistemology? Give me what you think it means.
Yeah,
well,
that's
once
a good
again, I'd have to
point.
go with definition. This is where
I'm not
I
asking for a
always
definition.
go to
What does it mean to you when you hear the term burden of proof? What does your mind think? What does it come to mind?
My mind says, just like it would sitting in any sort of courtroom, if you want to claim Joe Schmo ran the red light, then you should be able to show, at least reasonably, that, yeah, Joe Schmo ran the red light, and that's what caused the accident.
Okay. And if Joe Schmo says he didn't run the light,
right? And so now there's a conflict.
Should Joe Schmo be able to, who's saying he didn't run the light, be able to prove that he didn't?
Well, okay, then you go with kind of prove a negative. Did he or didn't he? Well, according to the theory on that, how can someone prove something that didn't happen?
Well, you can't prove a negative. It's called proof by impossibility. But
that's something we agree on.
Can I make this more simple and say, please, can you prove that Noah's flood didn't happen?
Yes, we can actually prove that Noah's flood didn't happen.
Then you just proved a negative.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
by the way, you
we
can't
can
prove it, but that's beside the point. But we're not going to get that.
Yeah,
technical.
that's actually.
But
that's actually more evidence than anything else.
Let me
go ahead.
Let me explain the problem that you're having here. You're confusing what's called domains of discourse. In the law,
domains of discourse. So one conversation is one type of conversation. This conversation is another kind of conversation, and you're kind of mixing the two of them together.
In the law, I'm not the one that brought up my little alphas and greater than.
It's okay. We're not. Nobody's placing blame. It's okay. Conversations are sticky.
I'm trying to get you through your epistemic problem here. Okay. Mm-hmm. The term modus probandi, which was a legal term, okay, means to demonstrate something in accordance to a legal fashion in order to have what's called a burden of production or a burden of persuasion. And those two
we had something else to agree on.
Okay, so you know the difference between a burden of persuasion and burden of production?
I understand that according to the courts, I'm still here, that we're trying to figure out and of course we wouldn't be able to do this between science and philosophy anyways, the concept that, back again, according to what you originally stated, burden of proof.
Okay.
So you're, according to the concept that, like I said, you referred to this other paper that says that, whatever it said.
All right, so I'm going to ask again, do you know the difference between a burden of proof and a burden of production?
What? Production?
Yeah, a burden of persuasion and a burden of production. Do you know the distinctions?
Go ahead and explain it to me.
Okay. A burden of production is in a court of law what is necessary to bring charges against somebody for criminality. Okay. The burden of persuasion is what is necessary to convince the judge or the jury that the person is guilty. Right?
Okay.
These terms are not really epistemological terms. They're legal terms. The term burden of proof in epistemology, which is the study of knowledge, has nothing to do with any of that. What it means is a burden of justification. It means, what do you have reasons for your personal belief? If you say, I believe this is the case, and I say, what is your burden of proof? And you tell me, well, I can show this, or I can demonstrate it, I can prove this, or I believe this because whatever reasons, those reasons that you give, that's your burden of proof, period. So when we say an atheist has a burden of proof, It means, why do they hold a particular position? What is it that they caused them to land on the position that they have? Whether it's a position that they say there are no gods, or theist is wrong, or the theist has no evidence, whatever they're saying, you have to have reasons to justify that, or you cannot have a rational position. That's what a burden of proof is. It makes a position rational.
Okay, hold on a sec. Yeah, but they're not the one presenting the argument.
You are presenting an argument. When you say
that's a hold on. Before we get to arguments, do you agree that atheism is a position?
Yeah, what?
Do you agree that atheism is a position?
It's a no position, but yeah, sure, okay, whatever.
Okay, so it's a position. Do you think agnosticism is a position?
I think theirs is a position as well. They don't know. They obviously say they don't know. Atheism says you guys have failed your burden of proof. I don't believe you.
That's not what. That's not the position.
Nobody in philosophy would agree with that. That's complete bunk that you've learned from the YouTube. Okay?
You want me to print the? Hold on a sec.
No, look. We deal with academics here. Okay, we deal with professionals.
Right.
Okay,
I
do a show literally with Dr. Fuzz Rana. Okay. On some of these topics, okay? We don't listen to these atheist bullshit YouTube channels that are putting out misinformation. Listen to me very carefully. Listen to me carefully. I know all those people. I know them all very well. They all know me, okay? But none of them have actually refuted any of my proofs. Trust me on that one. But the thing is, we teach people what they need to learn to go pass a course in college. That's what we do.
Well, you jumped from position into your reason why. If your reason for holding the position of atheism is that I don't think any of what has been presented to me is convincing, that might be your justification, but that has nothing to do with the position, right? So
what? Try one more time. I'm probably spaced out there, whatever.
Yeah. Here, I'll try again. What you've jumped from the talking about whether or not atheism is a position to why somebody might hold to atheism. So if you say that, hey, listen, this person told me this is the case and they weren't able to present to me any evidence that this was in fact the case, therefore I've rejected theirs and so I hold this position, but then you also have to explain why you don't hold to agnosticism.
Why should I have to explain anything? All I got to do is tell you I don't believe in little pink unicorns, invisible pink unicorns in my backyard.
Because you decided to enter the conversation. Because you've decided to come and say...
Yeah,
you've decided to right. So if you choose to enter the conversation and say, "Hey, no, I don't believe this," it's reasonable for somebody to respond with, "Why not?
Why not?
Why not? Sure, because I want proof. I want someone to give me a picture of that invisible pink unicorn living in my backyard."
But okay, that's fine. So if that's what you want to believe what they're saying, that doesn't explain why you don't currently.
Yeah, so the reasons why you
don't believe is your
burden of proof.
No, that doesn't make any sense. Go ahead.
Okay, let me explain that. So if you are saying that, hey, what would convince me of your position is this thing, it doesn't tell me why you're not convinced in the first place.
I shouldn't have to. All I need to say is, I don't believe you.
No, you can't.
From there on.
Okay, let me make this
not if you enter the conversation.
If you're in a dialectic or you're in a discussion with somebody, right, and you're having a conversation with them, and you just merely say, "I don't believe you," you're not having a conversation at that point. You're just what's called you're just doubting them, right? You're just denialism. That's straight denialism. Hang on, let me finish.
Doubting them is a good idea.
If you say if you say you do not believe them and you don't give a reason, you do not have a justified position. You do not have a rational position. That's how it. No, that's how it works. You know, you may laugh, but that's basic epistemology.
It's laughable because you're saying that I need to tell you why I don't believe you.
You don't have to tell me anything.
Tell me why I should.
It's called a discursory obligation.
That's not what's being said. You already entered the conversation. Right, if you come to me at random and say I don't like chocolate cake, and I say why not, and you say you haven't convinced me why I should like chocolate cake, you're not exactly engaging in the conversation that you started.
Hold on a sec, please. Hold on a sec. Listen to this. First of all, it's not random. These conversations that we get into over here on Facebook, according to, hold on a sec, let me pull it up. I'll get right back to where that was.
All right,
it is in a debate group.
I think he's lost on the analogy.
You are not listening. Again, let it finish. The room is called atheist versus theist. We already know what's going on in that room. It's not random. I just showed up and said, I don't believe you.
I've seen
it's
your
not random at
discussions.
all.
Let me make it very clear. I've seen your discussions in that group. You have no idea about any of these topics. You don't understand logic. We've already established this.
Nice for you insult again, Mr. Asshole.
Hang on. Be honest here. Come on, be honest. And then I want Dr. Cross to join us because she's in here right now. And I'll bring Dr. Cross in a second. But be honest here. I gave you logic that you didn't understand. So you have no concept of logic, correct? You've never studied logic. You don't know what a rule of inference is. You don't know what validity is. You don't know what soundness is. Is this all correct?
I mean, he already said he didn't.
Right. You don't know anything about epistemology. You don't know anything about philosophy. So how do you know anything about atheism when you sit there and say this is how atheism is when you've never read anything about atheism to be able to have a discussion on these types of things? You sat there and you just gave a burden of proof in the live chat that had to do with law, which is the wrong domain of discourse. We're not talking about legal burdens. We're talking about epistemic burdens. You don't even know enough to know what you don't even know. And that's the problem. Anyways, real quick, Dr. Cross, you still in here?
What's that?
Oh my God, help me here.
No, doctor.
I might need some medical attention here. I need some medical attention here because I'm about to lose my mind when I deal with some of these people that have the audacity and the hubris to say certain things that they absolutely completely are wrong, and yet they think they do so with some kind of like what is it, confident ignorance, right? Is that
Dunning-Kruger at its finest?
Oh my God! But anyways, how are you been?
Good. This conversation reminded me of, I do a lot of community work in my community, and, we get together with other mutual aid organizations. And I remember when COVID hit and I got into this nasty argument because I posted why people shouldn't catch COVID. I was like, even if it doesn't make you sick, it's going to mutate inside your body and make more virulent strains. Because it's made of RNA, and I did a long post about, it's a single-stranded RNA virus, it's going to mutate, and people were like, how do you know it's RNA?
It's mRNA.
Like,
that's the kind
of.
Well, first of all,
you're having a conversation.
I mean,
they're having a conversation up here, and they're having a conversation down here. They're not even at step one yet.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm going to keep it simple here from Michael here. You as an actual doctor, you had to go what's called I think it's called medical school.
Yeah, so I have a biomedical doctorate.
That's crazy.
There is. I know that people have heard us say this.
Guys, I know that coronavirus, so I know it's single-stranded RNA because that's what they are.
Classification.
They spell RNA. I love when people just have no idea what they're talking about. They can't even spell RNA, and they go, "Oh, well, this is going to mutate you, and it's going to it's going to change your DNA. It's going to change your nucleotide sequence. It's epigenetic."
This last call, and the person that Dr. Cross is talking about that just happened is exactly the thing I'm talking about when I say that at least flat earthers understand that they're talking about space, rocketry, and geometry. These people do not understand that they're talking about philosophy.
Right.
Like they do not understand that they're having a conversation about philosophy. So we're not even at step one.
Michael has not even learned enough to get in the game yet. I mean, seriously, not even learned enough to begin the conversation.
Right. He doesn't know what conversation he's having.
You have to do the basic logic. Like if it's not something, then it is something possibly. It's like explaining statistics to lay people is also really hard.
Oh, God.
That's why people think psychology doesn't have data or psychiatry doesn't have data. I'm like, psychiatrists go to medical school, right?
It's a soft science. Don't worry about it.
Right. But even sociology, ethnic studies, they dig up things out of the ground, and archaeology. I mean, this is data. It's different kinds of data, and it's statistical no matter what you do. You could do physics, and it's statistical. Once in a while, even atoms don't act the way they're supposed to. We know that because there's radiation.
But
Exploratory minds.
Real quick.
Exploratory Minds for 20 said, when I first saw terms on burden of proof, I thought, what the hell am I reading? But for gumball analogy, a light bulb turned on for me. That is only because I'm ignorant to philosophy terms. That's what happened here.
It's not burden of proof. That believes the proposition's true.
Oh, sorry, believes the proposition.
Because I have to explain things to Michael here because when I type I use symbology because it's a simple rather than type everything out because but I can explain what those symbols mean, Michael.
Right.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
I go with the if-then for complex when I explain philosophy. Like, if this, then that. Like,
right. Well, I mean, let me ask you. If somebody said, "Hey,"
'cause most people can get that far.
if somebody said, "Okay, Dr. Cross, show me something about statistics," and you start talking about standard deviations, I'm like, what does that symbol mean? Right? What's a standard deviation? And you're like, wait a minute,
Well,
you're not even at the level to have the conversation with you. You're asking me about statistics, and you don't know what a standard
and telling me
deviation
I'm
is.
wrong
And then
about
telling me that I'm
statistics.
wrong, right?
That's the other. So the thing is like when you've got somebody who earnestly wants to learn and is actually honestly asking these questions, somebody could have said, "Oh, hey, listen, Steve, show me a logical proof." He shows the logical proof, and you say, "I don't understand.
Right, then I
Can
would
you
like to explain it to
explain
you."
what that is?" And now you can have a whole nother conversation and actually get to a point where you can understand what's being said. So that way you can refute what's being said if you think he's wrong. But you have to understand what the person's saying before you can tell them that they're wrong.
And let me show you a person.
And then explain how they're wrong, because that's the important part.
I just shrunk for some reason. I'll fix that in a second. But let me explain a person who doesn't know what they're talking about. They say things like, "Oh, it's word salad," or "Oh, I have a dictionary." Those are the people that are not at the level to have these types of conversations. And what they do is they make it very difficult for people that want to have the actual conversations, because you look at them and you just go, why are they having conversations on topics they clearly know nothing about? They don't want to edify themselves. They don't want to learn anything. They don't want to ask any questions of anything to actually understand the topics. They just want to say you're wrong.
They don't even understand what topic they're in.
That's true. They don't know the domain they're in.
Because, I'm Black and Indigenous, but people see me as a Black woman. And when I use big words, people like to respond with the same response about the Urban Dictionary.
Oh God!
And I'm like,
I love when people think
you're
she's a Black woman. She can't know nothing. And then cops pull you over, and they're just like, call you ma'am, and you're like, bitch, I'm a doctor. Fuck you. I love that. I love that. She loves talking about those stories. I just I'll listen to all day long.
That too, because they do try to call me ma'am. Excuse me. It's
like, bitch, I'm a doctor.
It's still doctor, and one day you'll get it. Yeah. Okay.
Well, the amount of money I had to shill out for my degree, you better call me doctor.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Right, that's more important than the pronouns. Get that title right.
Yeah, I don't even, I do pronouns. I do they, them pronouns, but, I get it. I look pretty girly and hot, so I'm definitely not ma'am and have never been ma'am, though. I'm sure that once I was of age to be called ma'am, I was a doctor.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of sir either, because that's because of my military training, right? Because I was enlisted, right? I used to train the officers, and so they were called sir. So I'm not a big fan of being called sir personally.
What you guys are seeing right now,
I respect sir, and that's because I'm from a military family.
Yeah.
It's
what
sir.
Did Michael leave?
It's just
by the way, I think Michael.
Yeah,
left.
Michael left.
Okay.
What's going on right now? Oh yeah, as soon as you came in, he was like, "Nope." One of the things.
Smart woman here. I got to go.
One of the Hey, what the fuck?
Oh, sorry, Chesler's been here since the beginning.
We're supposed to do that.
What's happening right now, by the way, this is the mental health cathartic after having like a
I was calling in for mental health.
Right, that's what it is. This is the cathartic mental health part.
Right.
After you have somebody really dumb show up and say some really bad, this is the kind of
level
thing
of
that ends
dumb
up
is just
happening.
off the charts with some of these people. And
I don't want
And they're
to.
so arrogantly confident. Oh, let me explain to you why you're wrong about logic, Steve. Okay, go for it. What is P? Oh, fuck off.
Well, Steve, how do you know it's actually logic, though?
Ooh,
I don't.
that's deep,
Right.
profound.
I don't want to be terribly mean, but this is a situation where this person came in with a chip on their shoulder, looking to basically talk word around what was actually being said.
Hey,
and what
I'll give him balls. He got
He was
balls.
like
He did call in. I'll give him that.
Props for calling in,
Props
yeah.
for that, yes. Did he want to listen to anything? No. Did he want to learn anything? No, but I wasn't expecting it.
It was like looking at the comment section under Johns Hopkins posts. It was like this anger that just
Yeah, that guy was
But he had
mad.
a dictionary.
That dude was hostile. He was looking for,
Well,
for something.
but I even told him in the group, I'm like, look, you are not
don't
at that
mind
level
that.
to even engage with anybody on this topic. You don't know what the hell you're talking about on anything that I've seen. And so, but I'm like, if you got the balls to call in and you want me to explain this stuff in real time using very simple words, because keep it simple, stupid. Treat me like I'm a child. Treat me like I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay. And then when I'm due, why are you treating me like a first grader? Oh,
Explain this to me like I'm 5. Okay, so for a 5-year-old, I would have to. Don't call me a 5-year-old.
I'm serious. It's unbelievable.
I don't know.
get
The
it a
person-
lot. I
don't
get it
know.
a lot.
Yeah.
People, I do diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff, and I get it a lot. They're like, I don't understand why touching my coworker's hair is racist. And I'm like, well, okay, so let's keep it simple. You don't touch people you don't know, you know? And it's like, oh. And it's like, well, you're only touching black people, so that's a problem. You're literally assaulting people, okay? And it's so funny because then they're like, don't be condescending. And I'm like, well, you asked.
Right?
You're asking and you're here for the training. I got to give you my opinion.
You know, I worked in retail for 20 years, and I was in the military for 6, and I used to train people to operate nuclear power plants. I don't recall anybody going out of their way to try to touch me. I'm not attractive enough, I guess. It sucks.
Touch me,
you know.
So maybe you should hang around me.
People are trying to touch you, and I might get some secondary touching? Is that what you're saying? I might get some leftovers. I might have touching by proxy or something. Thanks.
Like, the only fights I've ever got into in my life have been over people touching me. And I'm like, oh, God, what kind of weirdo goes out of their way to touch a stranger? Especially my beautiful hair. Excuse me. It took hours.
That's super rude.
Girl.
Yeah.
That's super
Here's the
rude.
weird part. I don't even touch people I know. I don't even touch the people because most women won't let me anyways. But still, I mean,
He respects those women's boundaries.
People say the Aboriginal look I have, and they're just like, "Oh, you look interesting. I like you." They'll stare at me first. And
we like
creep
exotics.
over.
Yeah.
And then there's like all the oh, you're pregnant, let me touch your belly. How far along are you? Why are you touching me? Why are you touching me? Why are you here?
Don't ever pet someone's belly. It's a good
No.
mental health. If you feel like touching people's belly, you must seek help.
That would be,
Yes.
Look, the way I've always thought is this. I'm not a big touchy-feely kind of person. I don't like being touched either, for the most part, right? I mean, obviously, with certain exceptions, obviously, with people that I care about and love. But, I mean, for the most part, I don't like strangers touching me. I just don't. And why would I do it to anybody else? I mean, if you don't like, you have to be able to think like, have empathy, and you have to be able to understand, look, if somebody else is not going to, if you don't like it, why would somebody else like it, right? I don't want somebody to come up to me and start touching my butt. Just call me crazy.
What I notice is that people who don't get that kind of affection too often they'll come at me like, you should feel flattered that people want to talk to you and stare at you.
I don't.
And invade your fucking privacy. And
I don't like it.
And I'm like,
no.
no.
I don't. Why would I?
No.
Why am I flattered by if somebody says, "Hey, look, Steve," By the way, we have a rule on this program. Unlike other talk shows, we actually love being complimented. If you want to talk about our looks, what we're wearing, good, bad, or indifferent, we don't give a flying fuck. And there's other shows like they always come. They say all the time, "Please do not comment on the looks of the host." And we're like, we don't give a shit. Call us what you want. So if somebody says, "Hey, Steve, your hair looks really magnificent today," I love that. I'm flattered. I compliment Chesh frequently and tell, "Hey, Chesh, you look lovely today. Your hair is very well done today. Your décolorette looks amazing."
And Steve, your hair does look nice today, by the way.
Thank you.
But
and actually, it doesn't. But thank you. I didn't even get a chance to really do it today. But thank you.
Sweats on and with my hair all gross, and I just woke up and I'm in the passenger side of my car looking for something, and people are stopping in the street like, "Hey, girl!" Like, see, and it's not the area I live in either. It's a really nice area, but yeah. There's no good-looking privilege. It's just another reason people get harassed, at least in America.
I mean, I think it's nice to give people. I think it's nice to give people a compliment sometimes, but don't be random and creepy about it. If you think somebody looks nice and you're just walking by on the street, "Hey, I think that's a really nice shirt," and then keep going. Don't stop and expect an answer.
But like, "Hey girl, can I get your number?" When your sweat taking off the trash is not what anybody wants.
No. I agree.
I mean, I'm trying to keep. I'm taken, but I also am trying to take out this garbage and get back in the house. Like, I don't.
Timing,
really,
guys.
There's a lot of privileges that are backfire, though.
Yeah, when I'm walking outside, usually I'm not looking to go get a date when I'm outside somewhere, right?
It's a privilege to be more likely to be harassed. Thanks.
Hey.
Yeah,
every privilege can backfire.
Well, even at like bars and stuff like that, if it's some strange woman, and that I don't know, it's really uncomfortable. Now, if I obviously know them, it's completely different. But I mean, I don't know. At first I think that what do they want? What's the scam they're trying to pull? Right? I'm like, why are they touching me? Why are they hitting on me? Why are they flirting with me? Something's wrong here.
And
What's their angle?
People tell me I don't
are they
smile
shooting an
enough,
angle
but
here?
if I smile at people say like I don't smile a lot, but I don't smile at people because they think I'm flirting with them. Always, like I'd say 80% of the time, if I smile at someone, I'm bisexual. By the way,
she
so
wants
I hang out
me.
with lots of queer folks.
Every man thinks that way, right?
No,
Yeah.
I
Hey,
just want to be happy.
she smiled at me. She wants me.
She was nice to me. It means she wants to have sex with me. How dare you lead me on by being polite?
I believed you.
I know, right?
Tease,
How dare
tease.
All women are bitches, and you're fat and ugly anyway.
I didn't want
try
you
to be
anyways.
as fat and ugly as I can, man. I eat all the time. I smoke weed. It's. I have to eat all the time. I'm just skinny by nature.
She's got perpetual munchies. It must be nice to be able to like work with pot and then be able to like take home your work and indulge.
We choose this life. I don't make much money, but I'm very comfortable.
You know what?
So.
Happiness is shit. That's all.
That's what you want.
It's mental well-being, right? I mean, you obviously
Or
have
I think a lot of people in America feel like they need to be a millionaire, and it's a race to the top. I think a lot of that stuff makes people mentally ill and narcissistic and bigoted because they're so insecure with what they have and they want for other people's material things, and it can really work your mind. I mean, I grew up in a non-materialistic household, so I can imagine if my parents were materialistic, I would be like, "Oh God," because I'm just not that way.
Yeah, I'm very.
I have food in my refrigerator. I have the heat on because it's kind of chilly in LA today. I got a house over my head.
Give me a nice, comfy robe. Give me a warm meal and
oh shit, I'm an
a beer, and I'm good to go, right?
Yeah, like it's. And it's hard to explain to people because, TV, not only the TV ads, now we got the web ads. Everything is just like digging in their insecurities to get their money. And it's hard to say that, but yeah, a lot of these commercials dig on your emotions.
So real quick, we had somebody join us real quick, so I want to bring them into the discussion real quick. Eddie!
Yeah.
Oh, you got to unmute, Eddie.
Hey, what's up?
There we go. What do you got for us, Eddie? Why do you want to chime in?
No, I think you guys are kind of off base with how, and I followed your show for a while, and I'm just like, I know it's been explained to you over and over again. I just feel like
what has been explained to me?
This issue of atheism, agnosticism, and all this stuff. Listen, almost everybody's agnostic.
Why?
Because agnosticism deals with claims of knowledge.
Why?
And you can look at the root words for this. I mean, we're basically all agnostic, depending on how you define knowledge. Because if you require certain 100% knowledge for anything, then by definition, we're technically all agnostic.
So let me ask you, where did you get your understanding of epistemology from?
What do you mean?
Well, the term agnosticism has multiple usages in philosophy. Do you know that?
Sure.
Okay, so one of the uses is in the epistemological domain, which is the epistemological proposition of the knowability of God. Do you agree with that?
Say it again.
One of the usages of the term agnosticism deals with what's called an epistemological proposition, which is the proposition of gods are knowable or not. Yes?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
In the ontological domain, meaning dealing with existence, agnosticism has nothing to do with knowledge because it's not in the epistemological domain. It is the psychological state of being agnostic, which means you have no position either way. You do not believe the proposition is true, nor do you believe the proposition is false. Do you agree with that?
So then you have no knowledge. That makes you agnostic.
Has nothing to do with knowledge. It means you do not have a position.
Domains.
Well, by definition, babies are born agnostic. By definition,
no, it's not.
No, so there's
I got
two domains. Okay.
So if you go read Dr. Jane Friedman, who writes for New York State University, she wrote a paper called Suspending Judgment, which she explains agnosticism. And one of the conditions for agnosticism is that the subject has attempted to evaluate the proposition and has been unable to do so. And they suspend judgment on it, and they neither have a position that is true nor have the position that is false. Okay. Now,
Yeah,
can a
but you
baby
can also
hang on, let me
arrive
finish.
at that by not having
hang on.
considered it at all.
I'm about to ask you a question. According to those understandings, which is in the philosophical usages in the literature, can a baby suspend judgment?
No, but not
Then they're
by
not
that
agnostic.
definition.
There you go. Now you've solved that problem. So when you say things like people have been explaining things to me, they don't explain it correctly because they don't know anything about the topics. They don't read the literature. They don't read the papers. They don't read any of the PhDs out there that have written on these subjects for the last hundreds of years. How could they explain something to me if they don't even understand the topic themselves?
So use the word agnostic in a different gnostic or agnostic in different context than atheism. How do you differentiate the two?
So could I jump in on this? So it's different domains. The same way you were listening earlier, about burden of proof in a legal sense versus in epistemology. It's the same thing with agnosticism. If you're talking about epistemology, agnostic means something different than if you're talking about ontology. And so the same, if you're using the word atheism, you're speaking about epistemology. And if you're using agnostic, you're using epistemology. You're not talking about ontology. Does that make sense?
But here's the problem: words aren't natural. There's not magical definitions for the words. There's usage.
Correct.
That's what we're
That's
talking
why you
about.
have an epistemology. Yeah, that's what. Yes,
That's
exactly.
exactly what we're telling you. The usage in philosophy.
If you claim you have knowledge, that makes you gnostic about any topic.
No. That's not how the
But we're not
words are
talking
used.
about knowledge.
If I claim I have knowledge that the Easter Bunny exists, that makes me gnostic
Why do you
regarding
think
my
that?
knowledge.
Where in the literature have you ever read that? Because people have said this, but I've read most of the literature on this particular topic. The only place that is even mentioned is Dr. Draper mentions it one time in the form of Gnostic atheism, but it says that if an atheist really understood these topics, they wouldn't use them because it's very reminiscent of Theism. So hang on. I'm going to ask you, where in the literature did you read anything about the term Gnostic being used that way?
Well, it's just a fact. Gnosis is a common Greek noun for knowledge.
A fact. Show me your evidence for this.
Saying that it's a fact doesn't actually answer the question. Right. The question is, where did you read this?
Gnosis is the common Greek noun for knowledge.
That's a root of it. That's called the etymology of the term. But that's not where you know how the term agnosticism got coined. Where it came from.
But I'm just telling you, the word knowledge, gnosis is the common Greek noun for knowledge. I mean, how is that doing? How am I making up anything?
That's not how the term was coined. Do you really like to know how the term was coined?
I don't care how it was coined. I mean,
that's where it came from.
The root word of it.
But roots do not tell you how a word is used. You just said words have usages. Now you're going back to say, no, words don't have usages. They have etymological roots that must be used that way.
Look, Gnosticism is from the Greek having knowledge.
It actually
is a collection of religious ideas and systems which originated in late first century.
Second century it goes back to second and third.
No, first century.
Yeah, well, it probably goes back to the early first, but it actually goes more in the second century. The Gnostics were a group of people that believed you could become more with the divine.
I didn't say Gnostics. I said Gnosticism.
Which the Gnostic was an adherence to Gnosticism.
Gnosticism is the base belief, is the base position.
And what were the people called that adhere to Gnosticism? Gnostics.
Gnostics, yes.
Okay, then listen. The term Gnosticism was a term used where these people believed that by having a knowledge of the divine, they become back one with the divine. Some of them actually became Christians and they believe Jesus was the one who made us to go back to the divine.
See, this is where you get around. It's not just about religious context. You can be Gnostic about any topic.
No,
you can be
that's
Gnostic
not how the term is used in philosophy.
They're talking about philosophy, which means they're talking in a specific domain. They're already in this section of conversation.
Yes, and let me explain to you how the term actually was used, because what you're doing, Eddie, is you're parroting what's called Dan Barker's misunderstandings of agnosticism. He's the one that actually butchered a lot of this stuff because he wanted to make agnosticism assume atheism for political reasons. But the term agnosticism, the root term was actually not gnosis. It was nous, N-O-N-G-N-O-S. That meant, for Thomas Henry Huxley, the illusion of having knowledge. Robert Flint wrote a book called Agnosticism. It was published in 1903, I believe it was. And he explained that the term agnosticism was Thomas Henry Huxley usage to say, look, neither theist nor atheist have knowledge about God. They have the illusion of having knowledge about God. That's what it was. It was the illusion. He was actually trying to tell people neither atheist nor theist are justified to make any knowledge or doxastic claims, which are belief claims. So the agnostic was not theist. The agnostic was not atheist. The original usages of agnosticism was a normative epistemic principle, very similar to scientific methodology. That's how it was coined. We don't use those usages in that way any longer. Okay, so when you go read a piece of a paper, and you see that term, you're not going to be using it the way Huxley used it. Okay, That's not how the author is using that term in most of the case. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but Gnosticism isn't about the. I mean, Gnosticism. So here's the deal. It depends how you define knowledge. I mean, if you acquire 100% knowledge for anything, we technically, he's right. We don't. All of us are Gnostic by definition, but what Gnosticism deals with is what somebody claims. Somebody claims to have knowledge.
Let me explain it to you again.
Some Christian. Listen, when I was a Christian, I claimed that I had certain knowledge.
That's fine. Yes.
That God existed. When I was a Christian, I had knowledge. I had experiential knowledge. Experience in that was knowledge. That was substantiated knowledge claim, which made me a Gnostic Christian.
Okay, so let me ask you, what theory of knowledge do you tend to?
What's that?
What theory of knowledge do you tend to?
I'm not totally sure what you mean by that.
Okay.
If you're saying that there's Steve, breathe. If you're saying that depends on what you're using the term for, so it depends on how you define knowledge. Steve is asking you, what theory of knowledge do you tend to? So which one are you using?
There's certain conditions for knowledge. There's many different theories of knowledge out there that says, okay, if you meet these conditions. I understand
what you're getting at. You're asking me, do I require 100%?
No, that's not what I said. Don't do that. I'm asking you.
No, I think he doesn't know. I don't think he's.
Okay, well, let me explain it then. In order to constitute knowledge, there's certain conditions that must be met depending on what your theory of knowledge is. There's justified true belief. There's justified true belief plus. There's pragmatic theories of knowledge. There's semantic theories of knowledge. There's a lot of theories of knowledge out there. So you cannot say what it means to have knowledge if you don't know what a theory of knowledge actually is, because then you don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even know what knowledge is. And by the way, there's even in theories of knowledge, there's certain things called belief acceptance cases. What that means is some people will say knowledge requires certainty. That's a strong belief acceptance case. Most philosophers don't accept that. They accept what's called a weak acceptance case, which means that knowledge does not require certainty, but knowledge does entail belief. In other words, knowledge is a subset of belief. Does that make sense?
Not that knowledge is a subset of belief.
In order to have knowledge, you must have a belief as a necessary condition prior to having knowledge. It is one of the three conditions in justified true belief to have knowledge. The three conditions are: one,
but I think the important part is they're distinct from each other. Knowledge and belief are distinct categories.
No, listen to me.
You just said it yourself.
No. This is where the lay atheist makes huge mistakes. This is why you said when you came in, people have explained this to you, but they've done so incorrectly. You're doing the same thing. You're not understanding the concepts.
But Steve, you could have a belief and also not claim to have any certain knowledge regarding that belief. That's possible.
Cannot have knowledge.
But it's not the other way around.
Yes, you can. You can have knowledge of something, but not also not have a belief.
Wait, Steve, don't say no. Explain to us how. How can you have knowledge without belief?
Okay, so I can have an experience that I believe is that I know is God, right? But
you have to believe it.
The problem you have
for that to be the case.
Ever heard of the term equivocation?
No. You're right. So Eddie, I agree with you on that. If you claim to have knowledge, then you will have belief.
Have you ever had equivocation? Yes. Do you know what equivocation means? Or conflating? Either way, because you're doing both.
Equivocation fallacy.
So what you're describing is not knowledge in epistemology. What you're describing is being informed of information. Knowledge is a very specific word in epistemology. Okay, knowledge requires three conditions, and let me tell you what those three conditions are. Okay, this is the most common form and theory of knowledge called justified true belief, and you can go look up the analysis of knowledge in Stanford Encyclopedia if you want to learn more about it. But the three conditions are this: the subject believes the proposition is true, and the subject is justified to believe the proposition is true. Those are the three conditions to have knowledge. If those are the necessary and sufficiency conditions. If all three are not met, you cannot claim knowledge. One of those conditions, obviously, is that you believe the proposition is true. Therefore, under any belief theory of knowledge, which is most of them, you cannot have knowledge unless you have a knowledge condition. Period. Knowledge is a subset of belief.
Say,
now, if you're deciding,
say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Yep.
I didn't catch that last part.
Now, if you have three conditions and one of them is believing, then knowledge is a subset of belief, because you have to believe in order to meet a certain precondition in order to have knowledge. Therefore, you cannot have knowledge without belief.
There's also other forms of knowledge, other theories that you could use. There are, but a very few number, I don't know how many, a very few number that don't have this prerequisite. But you have to understand and know those ones before you can decide that those are the ones that you're using. So I'm not trying to pick on you or anything, but it seems to me that you don't know what those are.
Right. So
would that be accurate?
And by the way, I do appreciate you engaging on this. I mean that very sincerely.
Yeah, this is so good.
So I mean, I'm loving this, and I'm look, I haven't insulted you, so you know I must be enjoying this.
Sure.
But here's the thing: what you're telling people, what you're telling me, is basically it's the stuff that's been parroted of people that don't know what they're talking about. If you actually go read the literature and you learn about these particular topics, you'll realize that what you've been told by other atheist shows and other atheists, and not all of them, but there's a lot of atheist shows I do like, but most of them have lied to you. They have absolutely lied to you and told you things that you do not find in any of the literature. And I will tell you the same thing that I told Wayne Fillmore when it came to my first debate with him on Mac Revolution. He was a young earth creationist, and I told him, young earth creationists are lying to you. Go and let's have and we had the debate. He go realize that I was correct by looking at the literature, and he left young earth creationism. I challenge you to do the same. If you find anything that I've told you that's not correct, let me know. But you haven't read the literature, and the people that have came into me and say, hey, Steve, you may correct you. None of them have read any of the literature either. And I have to ask you, would that make sense to think that somebody's corrected me if they don't know the material well enough to even make these kinds of analysis? Right? I mean, I'm not going to go to an astrophysicist and that I've never read a paper on astrophysics and go, oh, look, your understanding of astrophysics is completely wrong, right? And I know a lot of astrophysicists.
I would just go to biology. You're not going to go to as a young earth creationist. Does it make sense for somebody who is a young earth creationist who doesn't know anything about biology to go to somebody who studies evolutionary theory and say that you're wrong?
Right.
And then parrot what their preacher said at them?
If I want to learn philosophy, I'm not going to go read or listen to Matt Dillahunty or Aaron Ra, because Aaron's completely inept at philosophy. What I'm going to do is read paper from people that I think are really good at the topic, like Dr. Oppie, right? Dr. McCormick, Dr. Draper,
Well, just go to a source. It doesn't even have to be it doesn't have to be Steve. Go to a source. If you want to learn about a topic, if you want to learn what epistemology is, go to somebody who studies epistemology.
Right. And I read
if you want to know what biology is or a certain subset of biology, go to the person that does that subset of biology. If you want to know a little bit about psychology, go talk to somebody who is a professional in that field. Go to the source. Right. Go find papers that are written by these people. We do have a couple of super chats that I just want to read out real quick, and then I will shut up. Jamie for 5 said, I want to see Chesh versus Steve. Is atheism or agnosticism the more rational position? Debate. No, please don't do this to me.
They're both rational. I couldn't even take a position.
Yeah, but they said more rational.
But I don't know which one's more rational.
How would you define that?
Yeah, I don't know how to argue that.
Helios for 5 said, anthropo is Greek root for human, pod is Greek root for foot, so anthropod means human feet, right? The root of a word doesn't always provide useful information.
Yeah, exactly. And the root auto means self, and mobile means mobile. So automobile is self-mobile. So therefore, the space shuttle is an automobile. Is it self-mobile? You can't go by the etymological roots of a word, right? This gives you an indication of maybe how it's used, but words are completely different from the etymological roots most of the time, right? So if you go read a paper, Eddie, I'm telling you right now, the paper will be using the term agnosticism in the way that I am, and the term atheism in the way I do.
I want to give you, because you didn't ask for example. I've been thinking about an example I could give.
Sure, go for it.
Let me just give you an example. Let's say somebody. Let's say a philosophy professor who I racially identifies as white. She has critically examined literature on racial differences in intelligence, and she finds the case for racial equality compelling. She is prepared to argue coherently, sincerely, and vehemently for equality of intelligence, and has argued the point repeatedly in the past. And yet, Julia is systematically racist in most of her spontaneous reactions. Her unguarded behavior and her judgments about by the way, her judgments about particular cases. When she gazes out in the class of first day for term, she can't help but think she has some students look brighter than others. And to her, the black students never look bright. When a black student makes an insight comment or submits an excellent essay, she feels more surprised than she would have were a white or Asian student to do so. So even though her black students make insightful comments and submit excellent essays at the same rate as the others do, and so on. So that's a case where somebody's knowledge,
it's not.
they have knowledge, but
their
belief
called
system
racism.
does not line up with their knowledge.
No,
let him finish, Steve.
That's
Sorry,
an example of somebody you asked me for an example. There's an example of somebody who has knowledge but does not have the corresponding belief system to line up with their knowledge statements.
Well,
but that's because they have conflicting. They think that they have conflicting knowledge. Remember, one of the subsets for justified true belief is that it's true. Right, like the information is true.
Here. This is a problem. You guys are making this a false dichotomy.
No. Hold on. There is no false dichotomy here because a false dichotomy requires two things. We're not talking about just two things. There's no dichotomy going on. What you're saying is that okay? So this person has. You're saying that this person has conflicting information, and their belief.
No. They have a knowledge claim. They have a certain level of. Here's the deal. This is the false dichotomy.
By the way, was that written by someone named
Maybe you can let me finish my explanation before you tell me I'm wrong.
Was that written by somebody named Sand or something?
Made a correct statement.
Wait,
no, well, I'm trying to.
Eddie, who wrote that?
I just wrote it down. As you were talking, I was writing up the stereo.
You wrote that? No, who wrote? Where did you get the example from?
I don't know. I was thinking about. I was reading some articles right now.
Yeah,
like
what's
about
the article that you're
things.
reading? I'm asking you.
I don't know. I'm not there anymore. I went to a bunch of different articles.
Right click and hit undo close tab. It should come back up.
Yeah, I'm looking at a bunch of different articles. This was an example that I saw. There's a couple other examples I was looking at.
Yeah, what's it from? By the way, somebody's making a lot of noise.
We got another caller. If you don't mind muting, you've got like some sounds like paper.
Yeah, can you find that?
I'm just saying. You asked me to give an example. This is an example of somebody who has
What's
certain
the source?
Can I ask you
the source?
I have no idea.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, again, I think you're conflating knowledge with information, right? You can have information. There's what's called explicit knowledge. There's tacit knowledge, and there's implicit knowledge. There's different types of knowledge.
These are all forms of knowledge.
Let me finish. Let me finish. Those are not the type of knowledge we're talking about when it comes to epistemology. This is where you have the conflation.
Okay, well, this is no true Scotsman fallacy.
No, it's not. It's not a true Scotsman fallacy. It is
so I gave you an example of knowledge, but it's not the right kind of knowledge.
That's
no, you're not. The answer is you're not letting him explain why it is, and you're jumping into fallacy trains, and you're committing the fallacy fallacy.
I literally just explained to you in epistemology. There's 3 conditions for knowledge. What were they again? Were you paying attention? Spot check here.
I don't remember all of them. No.
Do you remember any of them?
There was personal.
No. Look, I went out of my way to explain to you the 3 conditions for knowledge so you don't have these conflations that you're having. When I say that I have information, that I'm aware of something, that's not the same thing as an epistemological sense of having knowledge. I'm going to tell you the 3 conditions again. Knowledge means 3 things. 1, the proposition is true. 2, the subject believes the proposition. 3, the subject is justified to believe the proposition. Can you repeat those back to me, please?
All forms of knowledge.
Oh my God.
No. Okay, hold on. No. Those were not different kinds of knowledge. He's talking about one type of knowledge, and these are the prerequisites
these are the 3 conditions for that knowledge, right?
That type of knowledge.
Right. You have to have those 3 conditions to have knowledge. Those are the necessary and sufficient conditions.
For justified true belief.
Right. So again,
I think we might, Steve, I think we're too far into this conversation. We might have to go back a couple of steps.
Yeah. So one more time, the 3 conditions for knowledge. Just
okay. One more time.
So
Ready for this?
It must be true. You got to believe it.
It
And
must
then
be
I think
true.
the
You
last
got to believe it.
I forgot the last one.
The subject is justified to believe it.
You have to believe it.
It's justifiable.
Justified, yeah.
You need to be able to
That's where the
justify.
justified true belief comes in, right? Because if not, it's just true belief, or you're going to have unjustified true beliefs too, right?
But you can see that all of these are sliding scales because it must be true.
Right.
How do we know? We don't. But I mean, strictly speaking,
all right,
we don't know anything to be 100% true.
Absolutely.
It's not about-
fundamental.
Yeah. Okay. Let me give
like
you examples so that we know. And by the way, it doesn't have to be absolutely true. Knowledge does not require certainty.
You just said it must be true.
It must be true, but that doesn't require certainty. Certainty is a very different term. Okay, and you're using all these terms really
Steve,
bizarrely.
sweetheart.
The professor believe.
Let me run this by you. There's something called a priori knowledge. For example, A equals A. I know A equals A. I know that is a true statement. It's called the law of identity, or of all of X.
Wait, but does he understand what that means, though? Ask him
A
if
equals A?
The law.
Yeah, do you understand
The
what that
law
means?
of non-contradiction.
The law of identity is something that is itself. It's all of X, X equals X, or
Sure.
You could say A equals A. That's the law of identity. I know this, right? It is a mathematical axiom. It is true. I believe it, and I'm justified to believe it.
Correct.
Right? So, I mean,
So it's true.
Things. Right?
And so
A
it
equals A
is-
is true.
I agree. We can know certain things, but there are many things that we don't even know that the nature of reality is real. I mean, I mean,
well, that's
strictly
true. That's a
speaking,
properly basic belief, right?
Sure,
But
but do you accept that A equals A is true 100% of the time?
yes, in
That's
this reality,
knowledge.
yes.
Okay, so
But you're gonna
now you
knowledge it.
have an example, which is what you asked. You asked for an example of something that we can
Actually, I
possibly
didn't
know
ask
is
for an
true.
example. I already admitted that there are a few axial beliefs that we do know are true, like the law of non-contradiction, the law of
The
identity.
law of non-contradiction. That's one big one I wanted to bring up too, but that's gonna be for later maybe, because that's one big one atheists like to throw around, and I try to say doesn't the evolution and thermodynamics, that's kind of like two contradicting things, like the law.
Oh no, that's a misunderstanding of
Completely
thermodynamics.
not.
We'll move on to that in a little later.
I didn't
That's- I say we'll
I
talk
didn't get your
about
name.
that later.
Sorry, what was your name?
Yeah.
I came here once before talking about how like reality can be is highly subjective, but only for I guess certain individuals. And my name is John from America.
John. Okay, John.
Yeah, John.
I'm not going to get into discussion when it comes to entropy and thermodynamics, because most
Yeah,
people
that
have
might
no idea
have
what
to
they're
be-
talking about. And it's just,
That would probably
it's a
have
completely
to be a
topic, so
different.
different
probably have to be a
episode, yeah.
different stream.
Yeah, that's why I said that'd be for another thing.
All right,
Yeah, it's the
so
whole
let's
thing.
let me get back to the epistemology here, because the problem Eddie's having is that he thinks if you're aware of something, if I say, look, I'm aware that the sky is blue, okay, that in itself is not constitutive of knowledge. What is constitutive of knowledge is it is the case, the proposition, the sky is blue is true. It's assigned the truth value. That means that you have a truth apt statement. It is true that the sky is blue. I do believe it, and I'm justified because I understand Rayleigh's scattering. I understand wavelengths. I understand a little bit of physics. I know why the sky is blue. Therefore, I have a justified true belief. I can say at that point, I know the sky is blue. Does that make sense?
But you could have said, "I know the sky is blue" the whole time. You just
But it may not be
even if-
justified. If I don't justify it, it's not knowledge. Knowledge
Right,
must
but
be
we're
true.
not talking about whether it's justified. You can have knowledge, a knowledge claim, and you can have knowledge
What is the three
even if it's not
conditions again?
justified.
No, that's not knowledge. Remember the three preconditions. You keep forgetting the three
Well,
preconditions.
what would the point be? I think would be the question.
But this is
what
the-
is the
wait,
point?
I wanna ask-
You keep making
So then what is
assumptions you have
belief then?
knowledge
If
and
you
you don't, but knowledge is always on a sliding scale, with the exceptions of a few axiomatic beliefs. With the exception of a few axiomatic belief statements.
How
like
much
the law of
knowledge about something do you possibly
But all
have?
knowledge claims are tentative. We don't have any. Even the statement "the sky is blue." That's a knowledge claim that has a certain level of certainty. We don't have 100%
We
certainty.
don't
of
care
anything.
about 100% certainty.
But
Knowledge
we've
does not
gotten
require
to-
100% certainty. I've already explained that.
Well, then, by
accept
definition,
preconditions.
then if you don't require 100% certainty, then the first requirement, it must be true, is a sliding requirement.
Actually,
It's
no,
not a hard
but
requirement.
here's the problem. Here's the problem. That requires an additional delving into subjects that you're not familiar with, called theories
Yes.
of truth. Okay, Do you know what a
Yeah.
correspondence theory of truth is? Do you know what a coherence theory of truth is? Do you know what a pragmatic theory of truth is? If you do know what a truth maker is, or a truth bearer, or a truth condition.
No,
if you
but
don't-
why
let
not
me-
have
let
the
me
actual
finish.
conversations and get
Let
into
me
these
finish.
intellectual
I'm trying to explain
assaulting
something to you.
requests?
You sit there and say things like, "Oh, how do you know it's true?" I'm going to explain to you. We know it's true by using those types of theories. If you're not familiar with those types of theories, then you're not at the level to understand what we mean by something being true. Does that make sense?
But why don't we just have a conversation? Why do you have
Because
to throw out
this
these
is a
things
subject. This is an entire
listen,
subject in
here's the deal.
philosophy. It's like saying,
statement-
it's like saying,
Let's
let's have a discussion about evolution, but let's not talk about biology.
Well, my point
Can
is
I-
this. My point is this. All statements of truth have levels of certainty. You're not talking about. There's no such thing as outside of axiomatic beliefs. There's nothing. There's no
Can
statement
I-
like, "Oh, that's 100%
Very few things
true."
can we have certainty
Steve,
on.
can I
Yes, please.
can I hop in here? Okay. So the thing is that you're asking to have a conversation, and we're trying to explain one part of the conversation and haven't even gotten to why the first part of this, what you had brought up, are two different things.
Right.
Because we're still talking about agnosticism and whether or not it has to do with knowledge, which is not the case in philosophy. So if you want to talk about what is truth, or whether or not something can be a justified true belief based on what terminology or what you're using
Hold on.
to,
Can you
to
just said
be truth.
agnosticism is not the same thing as? Say that again.
I said that you're talking about agnosticism in ontology versus agnosticism in epistemology.
Right. Exactly. She's got this down to an
So-
art form. She doesn't even need me. I'm just gonna.
So,
I'm gonna go
so
now.
if you want to have a conversation about what is truth, then you need to be able to answer if somebody says, okay, what kind of truth are you talking? What theory of truth are you using to have the conversation? If you don't know what the theories of truth are, I'm not saying you do or you don't, you might not, I don't know. If you don't know what those are, how can we have a conversation if we don't know what theory you're using to even have the conversation about?
Right.
Well, that's the point of the conversation, because if you just sit
Well,
here
that's
and
why
say,
we're
well, if you don't
asking,
know all things about all things, then you can't have a conversation. Which
Right,
is
but,
a ridiculous
but here's the
proposition.
thing. Here's the thing. Do you expect me, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but do you expect me to explain to you years of philosophy in a few minutes when you say, hey, Steve, people have explained these stuff before, none of which have any understanding of these
Steve, I want to
topics.
have a conversation. Steve, I want to have a conversation about nuclear, about you being a nuke and how nuke functions. But I need you to explain to me the basic physics of nuclear.
Well, you can have a
technology.
conversation about being an apple.
I don't know.
What's a control rod? I don't know. So I need you. I want to have a conversation. I want to tell you that you're wrong about your nuke stuff, but I need you to explain to me how your nuke stuff works so then I can tell you how you're wrong.
So Eddie, if somebody
If you're not willing to have the conversation, if you're just going to thumb your nose down at people
I'm
because they
not.
don't know all the definitions of terms,
No, you're missing the
that's
point.
exactly
No,
what
you're
you're
missing the
doing.
point here.
No.
You're really missing the point.
Yeah, I'm coming in trying to have a conversation. You're
I
like,
get
well,
that.
do you know all these definitions, all these words? Well, it's
Because
like,
you're-
no, I'm
but
sorry, I
no.
haven't read the entire. I haven't read the entire.
Hang on. Let me
May
for a second.
I?
Eddie, if you let me try an analogy here. Okay, let's say you say, Steve, I want to talk to you about your reactors, and I say fine, and you say, hey, Steve, you've been explaining how reactors work, and you're wrong, and I say, okay, why am I wrong? And then you say, well, I don't know, but you've been explained, and I say, well, do you know anything about reactors? And you're like, well, no. And so you don't even know what a control rod is? Well, no. Then how are you having a conversation about reactors if you don't even know what a control rod is?
The thing
the
is,
same
let
analogy
me-
from philosophy.
Can I pop in and just say, okay, if you want to come in and say, all right, well, you're wrong about this, fine, whatever. And you want to have a conversation about that topic. And the topic is knowledge. And we say, okay, what knowledge are you talking about? What theory of knowledge are you using? And you say, I don't know what any of those are. We can't have a conversation about knowledge because you don't know what theory you're talking about.
Right. At that point, all I can do is explain it to you, and you can learn from it.
If I say, I want to talk about Pokemon, and then I say, okay, who's your favorite Pokemon? And you say, I don't know any Pokemon. I don't know what to tell you.
So if you said, hey, Steve, I don't know what a theory of knowledge is. Can you explain it to me? Which I just did. I told you the 3 conditions for that. And there's other types of theory of knowledge there. And you say, I say, what about truth? And you're like, well, I don't know. I don't know what truth is. And I can say, I can explain to you, Eddie, what a truth may be. If you want
But
to use
you
like,
tried to explain to me, and I point out the fact that your first requirement is true. It must be true.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, by that definition, no one can have any knowledge of anything
and
because
I mean,
you
we explained
don't-
that. No, A equals
But
A.
you
I told
don't
this.
know-
We gave you an example.
Let me, you don't know what truth means in this context.
Yes.
That's what you've said. You've said, well, we can't know truth in this or this case. And so Steve is trying to explain, well, there's which theory of truth are you using? Do you know?
Perfect example.
Hold on. Okay. Do you know a theory of truth? Can you describe to me one of the theories of truth?
Not in the textbook sense, no. But that
In any sense. Can you even name one of them?
Words. In your own words, even.
Yeah.
A theory of truth? I mean,
Yes,
the way I view a theory of truth is the way you look at truth statements, which is you can define truth statements as to me, truth is basically a sliding scale of that conforms with reality.
Okay, that's good. There's a theory called that. It's called the correspondence theory of truth. Have you heard of that?
It sounds like that's what I'm saying.
Okay, but it's a little more technical than that. Okay, in a correspondence theory of truth, that means there's a truth maker, right, that makes the proposition true. There's something that exists that makes it the condition of what's called instantiation, to make that truth maker make the proposition true. Okay, so it's a little more complicated than just saying, oh, it corresponds to reality. There's other things out there too, like truth conditions. Let me give you a perfect example of how I can know something. Cheshire is short. She's legit freaking homunculus. She is like 3 feet off the ground. Okay,
that is a truth statement.
I am sure that you're. I mean, are you taller than 5 feet, Eddie?
Yes.
Okay, so if you stand next to Chesh and you're back to back, there's a truth condition. It's not a truth maker, right? It's not a correspondence theory because it's not a truth maker. It's a truth condition. If I look and I see that you're taller than her, if the proposition is Eddie is taller than Chesh, what makes that proposition true is a truth condition. Okay, is it true that you're taller than her if you are, let's say you're 6 foot and she's less than 5? Is that true? Is the proposition true?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that it's true?
But no, hold on. But wait a minute. Before you move on, it could also be true that your perception of that reality is false, because I'm not going to get into the case of skepticism and just denialism. But it could be an illusion.
And we could all be agreeing on that. But that's completely
that's a different question. Yeah, that's a different topic.
Well, there you go.
So
no, not done. That's a different conversation. This is entirely
the whole point.
I'm not getting into the skepticism conversation. That's a straight denialism.
That's the whole point.
So your whole point is that you could be wrong. Your whole point is that you could just be wrong and you don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, hang on, I got this. So Eddie, according to the truth condition, there's a truth condition that exists, that you're up high, she's up down low. There's a differential that is a truth condition that makes the proposition Eddie is taller than Chesh. That makes that true. Do you agree with that?
It's a truthy statement. I would call it a truthy statement.
No.
What does that mean?
A truthy statement is once again, we don't know anything 100% certainty outside axiomatic belief. So everything we believe is tentative based upon what we currently know. So yes, I appear to be 6'3" and she appears to be 5, and I appear to be taller than her. I agree with that. That's more true than not. But whether or not we can ever assess that that's actually the absolute truth is false.
If it is the
Steve,
case,
I think we found the real trouble with this conversation.
It's a denialism.
I mean, that's fine. But then hold on, Steve, just for a second. If that is the conversation, this sounds like the conversation he actually wants to have, instead of the one about either beliefs or knowledge. Or if you want to talk about whether or not denialism is it certainly is an approach, but I think that's a different conversation than the one that you're asking to have. Is that the one you actually want to have?
No, that's not the one I want to have.
That's
the one no. Steve introduced the concept that in order for something to be knowledge, you have to have has to be true, and I reject that assertion.
Let me reword it as a conditional. Now, listen to me closely here, please.
Okay.
Conditional
means you've already stepped past the reality. You've accepted that these are the case.
Putting it all aside. If it is the case that you are taller than Chesh, then the proposition Eddie is taller than Chesh is true, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's work with that then. If that is the case, then the proposition is true, and you believe that it's true, because you can, let's say you see that you have a differential there, and you're justified because you've measured your height and you've measured her height, then if that's all those the case, then you can say that you have knowledge that you are taller than Chesh. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you require all three of those things, but I don't see why you have to require all three of those things. Any one of those things could be true.
Theory of knowledge. That's what the
any one of those things could be true, and you could claim knowledge by definition.
I have a question.
Wait,
I have a question. Okay, you can go first, and then I'll go.
Right, John.
You ask the question.
Okay. Can it both be true and not true that water is wet? Because that's the thing that everyone always fights about, and definition, like people's definition kind of throws them off, and they're always like, "Water is wet, water is not wet." It's like a big old thing because scientifically speaking and verbally, they kind of clash, you know.
I would agree. Yeah. I think depending on how you use the phrase, I agree. There's not a there's a true-ish answer, which is yes. Colloquially, water is wet, but technically speaking, is it wet? Maybe not.
Grammatically speaking, or technically speaking, because technically speaking is scientifically speaking.
Well, that's what I meant. I mean, colloquially or grammatically, well, for example, like, water's wet. Water's wettish.
Well, waters are wet.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Speak. You can speak here. Well, water is a wet substance, but you could ask your question now. That was it.
All right. So
but this is my problem. We can go down all these rabbit trails all we want to, but the point is, there's not a lot that's required to be able to say, "Hey, I'm claiming some type of knowledge." What it may not be. It may only be like 1%. Like,
so what's the problem about that?
Claim.
Yeah, these are foundations for epistemology. These are how people build their epistemic frameworks. Right. This is the foundation to understanding and reason.
Steve, I'm going to ask you a question. Sure. Is it possible to claim knowledge, but it not be true? So possible to claim that you have knowledge of something, but what you claim is not true, is not actually true.
I'm going to answer this for you. Okay. First, I wrote an essay on this called "The Principle of Attribution and Retraction." If somebody can find it on my blog and put it in the live chat, I highly recommend you read it. Okay.
What can you put in the chat?
Somebody will find it. It's called "The Principle of Attribution and Retraction." Okay. To your question, if somebody claims they have knowledge, can they be wrong? Yes. If they hang on, let me finish. If they have knowledge, they cannot be wrong.
How is that? That's not true.
I'm going to say it again because I want you to hear the distinction here. There's a very fine nuance here that a lot of people don't get. If somebody claims knowledge, they can be wrong. If they have knowledge, they cannot be wrong. Knowledge cannot be false. Knowledge must by definition be true.
There's a difference between claiming to have knowledge and having knowledge.
Right. If somebody claims
does that make
knowledge,
sense?
They have knowledge, they can't be wrong.
Yeah, so let me give you my essay
if
in a
they
nutshell.
claim knowledge, do you understand the difference between claiming to have something and actually having something? Well, can you not interrupt for like half of a second? Do you understand? If you claim to have something and actually having something, if I claim to have a Pepsi in my hand, I might not actually have a Pepsi in my hand. But if I have a Pepsi in my hand, I have a Pepsi in my hand.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But that could be an illusion.
No. If you have it, again, listen to what
if
she's saying.
Have,
if you have
yes.
it, then that is
it's
the case.
Already when you say if I have, it's already removing illusion or perception out of the equation.
Right.
Yes, I understand. I see what you're saying. Epistemologically, you're correct. Yes. If you have a Pepsi, either you have a Pepsi in your hand or you don't. I understand that.
Right. That's
but here's where my rub is.
Right.
Okay, because we don't have certain knowledge. We don't most things in reality will never have complete certain knowledge, and there'll be no way to have certain knowledge. Everything could be an illusion. Everything could be mistaken.
So I have a question.
And by that definition, nobody can have knowledge of anything outside of axiomatic claim.
I promise, Jeff.
Well,
promise.
Okay, I get my question in after this, though.
I promise. Eddie, I'm going to tell you two things real quick. One, in my conditions for justified true belief, did any of those conditions require knowledge? Then just simple yes or no.
In your definition of justified true belief?
Yeah. Did any of them? Did the word knowledge come? I mean, did the word certainty call it?
I'll be honest with you, Steve. I don't remember the exact definition you gave.
Just say no. Just let me help you out here. Say no.
The word certainty is not part of
certainty is not part of
what you presented.
It's not a sufficient. It's not a necessary condition. Okay. Now, two. I'm going to explain to you real quick the principle of attribution and retraction in a nutshell. It'll take me 15 seconds.
Say that phrase again. What is that?
The principle of attribution and retraction. Okay. If I say that I believe it's going to rain tomorrow. Okay, I'm attributing something. I'm giving a belief, right, that it's going to rain tomorrow. Okay, if tomorrow comes and it does not rain, I had a false belief. Would you agree with that? If I believe it's going to rain tomorrow and tomorrow comes and it doesn't rain, I say I had a false belief. Correct?
Yes. If you believed it was going to rain for 100%, you had a false
Forget
belief.
this 100%. You keep throwing these things in there. Okay, don't throw in
The
weasel
certainty
stuff.
is not doesn't come into this.
Yeah,
But,
listen to what I'm
belief
saying.
doesn't
Don't add anything
necessarily
to it.
include knowledge. You're not claiming to have knowledge that's going to rain tomorrow. You have a belief.
Eddie,
Eddie, you already agreed that. Yeah,
Okay,
you already
just go.
agreed. You already agreed that knowledge is a subset of belief.
So
earlier.
let me explain this again, and don't add to what I'm telling you because it's very important if you want to understand these concepts. If I believe that it will rain tomorrow, or it's going to rain tomorrow, and tomorrow comes and it does not rain, I had a false belief, correct? My belief is wrong, correct?
I'll
not a
say
trick question.
yeah,
Come on.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Okay, so
Sure, I'll go
I
with
had
that.
a false belief. If I say, I know it will rain tomorrow, okay, and it doesn't rain, I do not say I had a false knowledge. I retract the claim of knowledge, right? So I've attributed something and then I retract it. So a false belief can exist. A false knowledge cannot. What I would do is say, no, my claim to knowledge was incorrect. So when first case for belief, I had false belief if it didn't rain, but if I claim knowledge, I didn't have it. I don't say my knowledge was false. What I say was I never had knowledge to begin with. I retract the claim that I had.
The difference between saying that I have a pop can in my hand, claiming I have a pop can in my hand, and actually having a pop can in my hand.
Does that make sense to you, Eddie?
It does make sense. That does make sense. Your claim to knowledge is false.
Well, my belief was false.
It was incorrect.
My claim was false.
Your claim was false. The knowledge it doesn't come into that, and then the belief can be a false belief.
Was false.
Correct.
So it's the same. They're the same things for each of their own.
But it's not the same thing as having false knowledge. Knowledge by definition must be true. There's no such thing as having a false knowledge. You can have a false belief, but you cannot have a false knowledge. Because of the three conditions.
You want to make it even more complicated? You could have a false belief about true knowledge.
Sure. Yeah.
So I could you could present me, because you've been talking about this. You could present me with this information and I could come to an incorrect conclusion based on the knowledge you've given me.
Correct.
So I might still believe it and I might still have the correct knowledge, but come to the wrong conclusion.
Or I can have the correct conclusion and not be justified. I can say, hey, look, this is the case, and why do you believe this? Well, because, I looked at my magic 8 ball.
It's really complicated, isn't it?
Told me. Well, that's not justification, right? So I can have a true belief, even though it's not justified. In order to, and by the way, the whole problems get in what's called the Gettier problems, and it gets very confusing when you start talking about Gettier problems, which we're going to be talking about on this channel because somebody mentioned the other day. But this is not something that you just sit down and learn in a day. This takes a long time to pick up this stuff. It took
complicated.
me 6 fucking years of reading shit. Well, it's probably longer than that because 7 or 8 years ago, I had a friend who was a PhD in philosophy that kicked my fucking ass on these topics, and I got sick of it and said, fuck this shit, I'm going to learn it, and so I did. But I'm not
here's the rub to this, Steve, and this one I ask you. Can you be Gnostic about the Easter Bunny?
I don't.
Okay. You're talking about belief and knowledge again. You've jumped.
I'm asking you: is it possible to be Gnostic regarding whether or not?
And I'm answering you and telling you you've jumping topics.
Yes, I am jumping topics.
Right.
Is it possible?
In your question, you're jumping topics.
Is it possible to be Gnostic about whether or not?
Trish, I had a question, so I haven't forgotten about you, Trish. I'm going to get back.
to you. I know.
So, Eddie, what do you mean by can you be Gnostic? Can you tell me what you mean by that?
Can you be Gnostic regarding the existence of the Easter Bunny? It means some people claim that an Easter Bunny exists. They claim they have certain knowledge that the Easter Bunny exists.
To know that the Easter Bunny exists.
Okay, so if
or
they
to
claim,
believe that it exists.
Some people believe. Some people have.
Some people
I don't know anybody that's claimed
this.
But okay, so somebody has claimed that the Easter Bunny exists.
They claim they have certain knowledge that the Easter Bunny exists.
By the way, I assume this is hypothetical because I've never met anybody like this. You have?
Well, my kids have certain. They say they've seen the Easter Bunny dropping off Easter eggs. So,
what's the truth condition or the truth maker that makes the proposition true that the truth bunny, the Easter Bunny exists? Is that proposition true?
I mean, I don't believe it's true, and I don't have any knowledge.
You don't believe it's true. Okay, you don't believe it's true. You don't believe there's. Okay, let me hang on.
I don't. My kids claim they have seen the Easter Bunny dropping off eggs. That's what they claim.
Wait, to you personally. I'm asking a straightforward question. Do you hold the belief that there's no such thing as the Easter Bunny?
Do I hold the belief?
Yes.
No, I do not believe that.
No. Okay, so I'm okay. God,
What?
I really want you to
I
think
do
about
not
what you're
believe
saying.
this exists.
No, Eddie.
Okay, no, perfect.
I really
That
want
was
you to
it.
think
That was
about
the
this.
answer.
I really want you to think about this very carefully. Okay, like, I'm not trying to trick you here. Because if you don't hold the belief that the Easter Bunny doesn't exist, I'm gonna kind of think you're kind of an irrational person. Anybody
I
over
don't
the
think
age
it's such a
probably believes
question.
this.
No,
I'm gonna-
I do not believe the Easter Bunny exists.
I didn't ask you that.
And I
Do you-
obviously do not have knowledge of.
I'm not asking about knowledge. Listen to what I'm asking you. This is what I really despise about, no offense, New Atheist TM. They don't answer the questions being posed to them. I'm asking you,
Because I don't understand the question.
And that's probably true. Do you have the belief? Are you convinced? How about this way? I'll make it even easier.
I already said no.
No,
I said I don't
didn't
have
finish the
belief.
question. Are you convinced there is no such being in the universe that is an Easter Bunny? Are you convinced of that?
No.
Okay, so you think, so you're agnostic on the Easter Bunny.
So you think the Easter Bunny might exist?
You think
This
the Easter Bunny
is
might
my
exist?
point. There's two different questions. There's a question about whether my knowledge is about
I'm
it.
not
There's
asking
also
about
what my
knowledge.
belief is.
Stop it. I'm asking you, are your belief? You have,
I do not believe in an Easter. I do not believe the Easter Bunny exists.
I didn't ask you if you didn't believe. I asked you, do you hold the belief? Are you convinced there's no such thing as Easter Bunny?
No.
Okay. Then
So you're not.
agnostic
You're
on it.
not convinced
You're not
that the
there's no such
Easter
thing as
Bunny does
I'm
not
convinced.
exist.
Right.
I'll
I
tell you right
lack
now.
belief in the Easter Bunny. I am
So-
not. Hold on now.
So
I
the
am
Easter,
not. I wanna
let me
clarify this.
guys. I'm trying to clarify so that way Steve understands what you're answering. Right? I'm trying to help Steve understand
I
you.
understand his answer.
Please let me.
I am
Yeah, I
not
know.
saying-
Shut up, Steve. So you're saying that the Easter Bunny may exist and the Easter Bunny may not exist. Is that correct?
Yes.
You have no belief either way.
Okay.
You have no position on it.
Regarding my belief, I do not believe in an Easter Bunny currently. That's not to say I believe. That's not to say that the
Eddie,
Easter Bunny does not exist.
I
I am
have
not
different ways I
saying that.
explain this. Let me give you the proposition. The proposition is the Easter Bunny exists. Is that proposition true?
I don't have any position on it. I do not believe.
Okay,
I cannot say the Easter Bunny doesn't exist because I can't be in all places at all times.
So you,
Steve, just ask me.
all right,
Just ask
hey,
me.
Hey, Cheshire, does the Easter Bunny exist?
No.
Yeah.
How do you know? How do you know, Chesh?
Because go ahead, give me your justifications.
Prove it.
Because
You don't
the
have to prove That's a different
These are
question.
three different questions.
Yeah, you don't have to prove anything. She's not saying I can prove
Okay.
it. She
She
has to
just said
justify
Easter Bunny
it.
does not exist. That's a positive claim. She has to prove that. She has to
No,
show
Who
evidence
says
that's
that?
true.
Where do you get that nonsense from? There's no. I dare you right
Can
now.
I answer the
to find a
questions?
Go ahead,
single
answer it. You
source on
can't.
that. But go ahead.
I can't. I can't.
go ahead.
I can't justify my position to not believe in the Easter Bunny.
Prove
Wow.
the Easter Bunny doesn't exist. Prove it.
Well, that's a different question. Did she?
That's
no
yes.
Yeah.
Which
but
question are you
Eddie,
asking me?
Eddie, now
Easter
you're
Bunny
being, now
doesn't
you're
exist.
straw manning.
Prove it.
Did she tell you she could prove it?
She's making a truth claim, which is the
Which
Easter Bunny
not
does not
required
exist. That's what she
proving. That's
said.
called logical positivism. That went out in 1930, man. She's
See,
telling you
this
she's
is the whole.
justified
This
to
is
believe
the
it.
whole discussion. I'm glad we got to this point. I want to hear Chess back up her statement that the Easter Bunny
Okay,
does
go ahead.
not exist.
But what I said is I don't believe that the Easter Bunny exists. That's not the same thing.
No, you have a positive
Steve
claim.
asked
You said
do you
that
believe
the
it
Easter
exists?
Bunny
You
doesn't
said
exist.
Well,
no,
no.
it doesn't.
Hold on. Let me finish my analogy.
Okay.
So you're saying that it's not acceptable for me to say I simply don't believe that the Easter Bunny doesn't exist and therefore don't have to prove
Perfectly
it?
acceptable, but that's not what you said. You said the Easter Bunny does not exist. That's what you said, and I'm asking you to demonstrate that your claim is true.
So it's acceptable in one way and not acceptable in the other? So
Yeah,
it's
because-
acceptable. You're
It's a null
demanding.
it's a null
You're
hypothesis.
demanding that I prove
You're
Something
My-
doesn't exist.
correct.
my a negative, something that was earlier stated couldn't
And you
be happen.
cannot do it, and that's my whole point in all this. This whole thing about atheism and agnosticism
Well,
is bullshit.
can you not jump ahead in the conversation? Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
So, when it comes to if somebody says they don't believe in God, are you going to apply the same rules as you're applying to me in the Easter Bunny?
That's not what you said.
I'm
You said the
asking
Easter
you.
Bunny does not exist. That's what Steve asked you. Do you believe? Do you believe? and
Do
you
I
said
believe
no,
the Easter Bunny
not
does exist? And I said no.
Right. Go ahead. Demonstrate how you know the Easter Bunny does not exist.
He keeps jumping ahead.
I know, he's all over the place.
I'm asking you not holding your feet to the fire. That's all.
No, you're not. You're not listening to what I'm saying, and you're jumping ahead and not answering what I've asked you. You're jumping 2 steps ahead before you've answered the question I've asked. Can you answer the question I've asked? Do you know what the question I asked was?
You asked a couple. Which one? What's? I
asked one question.
I mean, I could do it if you want.
You still haven't answered my question. You
want me to
responded
answer?
to Steve. Steve asked you a question, and you said no.
Okay.
You said the Easter Bunny does not exist. I asked you to demonstrate that, and you still have yet to do that. All you keep doing is going back.
I can answer it if you want.
I can answer it also.
Go ahead, Steve.
All right.
Prove to us that the Easter Bunny doesn't
so first,
exist.
the Athens 619, $5. Does puck exist? If you believe so. All right. Here's the answer to your question, Eddie. The Easter Bunny does not exist because there's no instantiation of such a creature that makes the proposition for a truth maker the proposition
Black
of being.
Swan fallacy.
Let me finish. You asked me and then you interrupt me. I'm giving you how to justify it. There's no instance of a condition for a truth maker to exist where there's a being called the Easter Bunny to make the proposition the Easter Bunny exists. We know that the Easter Bunny is a mythos. We understand.
That's the Black Swan fallacy.
Let me fucking finish. Why do you keep interrupting?
Oh my God.
You asked for reasons, and I'm giving them to you. All you have to do is explain why it is the case. There is new. Okay, let me ask you.
You understand now? Now this is the demonstration. You see why I didn't immediately jump through his hoops.
Exactly. It's the same.
Because he refuses to listen.
Yeah. Very clearly, there's no truth maker that exists to make the proposition true. Therefore, if the proposition has no truth maker to make the proposition true, it is false. That is how it works. So the statement, the proposition, the Easter Bunny exists, is false because there's no truth maker that exists. Now, could that be wrong? Sure. Produce a truth maker of an Easter Bunny, and we'll change our position on it. That's all you got to do is tell somebody that.
It's the short answer is you have a sample theory of 0.
Yes.
Black
for the
Swan
Easter Bunny.
fallacy. That's it.
That's not what the Black Swan. Hold on. Can you please describe to me the Black Swan fallacy and then explain to me why it applies?
Because I've never experienced a black swan. Hold on. Let me restate that. I have never seen a black swan. Thereby, there are no black swans. Just because
did we say you have never? Did either of us ever say we've never seen the Easter Bunny?
That's basically verbatim what Steve just said. He said
basically. So it's not. So it's not what he said. What did he say?
For the statement, the Easter Bunny exists,
which has nothing to do with just his experience. That's not what the statement is about.
That is his experience. My kids claim they do have evidence.
And do you believe them?
I've already answered. I don't.
Okay, but you haven't told them that they don't exist. You haven't said, "Hey,"
because I cannot be at all places at all times in every small universe.
So you're going to let your kids growing up, and they're going to be grown adults, and they say, "Look, I don't have the belief there's no Santa Claus." They're going to look like idiots.
I don't teach them that there's an Easter Bunny. What I'm trying to say here, Steve, is that even if I could travel the entire universe all at the same time, if I could travel the entire universe and look at every single square inch of the universe and verify that I have not seen the Easter Bunny, that doesn't mean that the Easter Bunny doesn't exist. The Easter Bunny can still exist in another part of the universe.
So I have a question. If you leave your house and you come back home, like you go grocery shopping or whatever, and you come back home and you go to the door of what you know is your house, do you know when you open the door, or do you believe, because these are two questions, I'm asking you two, do you know and or do you believe that when you open the door, it will lead to your house?
Do I know when I open the door?
I asked two. I asked, do you know and do you believe? Two different questions.
Well, okay, well, to answer that, I need to clarify. See, this is the problem.
Okay, clarify then. Yes, I'm fine with this.
Knowledge and belief. You're acting as if it's either on or off. And I'm sorry, I disagree with that.
I didn't say that.
I
didn't say that at all.
So to answer your question, I am Gnostic in the sense of I know I have a high level of knowledge that opening my door will result in me walking in my house, and I also have a high level of belief that walking in my door will result walking in my house.
So you're not 100% sure if you open the door. You don't 100% believe that if you open the door, it's going to lead to your house.
outside of basic axiomatic beliefs, I don't have 100% certainty in anything. This is the whole point.
So, well, I'm not asking. Okay, so this is the question. Exactly, it is the whole point. That's why there's two questions. Your knowledge.
That's why atheism and agnosticism are two separate
now you're
points.
back to atheism.
No! Oh, no!
That was the whole point. I got you to the whole.
Oh my
the whole
God.
conclusion.
No, the conclusion is that there's a difference between knowledge and belief. You agreed that
Thank
knowledge
you.
is a.
That's exactly what I've been saying this whole time. You can be gnostic about anything.
No.
Oh my
God.
God! Dear
like
God, did you
pulling teeth.
notice the difference in what I said? There's a difference between knowledge and belief.
Right.
Ontology versus epistemology. I asked you about one and I asked you about the other at the same time. Your answer was the same to both. You have a high level of knowledge and a high level of belief. I assume you're using your knowledge to justify your belief in this case, which is why you're not 100. You don't 100% believe that.
Super chat.
Which I don't know what that means, because I would love to hear you explain to me whether or not, how do you come to what does it mean to half believe something and half not believe something?
Exploratory Minds for £5. Easter Bunny exists as an idea, not as reality. If you're asking in terms of reality, the answer is no. The bunny does not exist.
Well, I agree. Okay, so I agree with you. It's more likely that you either believe something or you don't believe something. But but there's still
how can you possibly have a high level of belief, which means you have a high level of not belief, that if you open the door, it's not going to or is going to lead to your house? What does that mean?
What does it mean to have a high level? Okay, so
how do you have some belief and some not belief at the same time?
I would consider myself Gnostic, because I have a high level of knowledge and experience based upon my life, that when I open my door, I will go into my house. I didn't ask you
about knowledge.
And when it comes to belief, I also have a high level of belief when it comes to that, because that would make me an ahomist.
This doesn't answer the question. Yeah, I asked you, how do you have?
I'm a Gnostic adorhomist.
You're not answering the question. The question is, how do you have X amount of belief and X amount of not belief at the same time?
I didn't.
How can you believe something? Yes, you did. You said I have a large amount of belief. I have a high level of belief, which
You're right. You're right in saying that. I tripped up, and I have no problems admitting I'm wrong. You're right. You're correct. I believe 100%. I have a belief that I will walk into my house 100%. So you're right, and I'm wrong about that. I'm wrong about the idea of having.
But you also have 100% knowing that you're going to walk in your house too.
I do not have 100% knowing. I have a high level of certainty.
Belief. Remember, knowledge is a subset of belief. So if you say I have 100% belief, how much is that of knowledge? How much more do you got to go to knowledge to get 100% knowledge? Where's the discrepancy there?
I'll never be able to arrive at 100% knowledge because by definition, because I can't overcome hard solipsism. As far as I know, it could all be false.
What the fuck does solipsism have to do with fuck all?
We've jumped topics again. So let me ask you this.
I can be wrong about everything. By definition, you can't be 100% true about everything.
Do you know and do you believe if you walk through the door? Yes.
So we got to wrap this up.
Do you believe that you are? Well, let's do the brain in the vat then. Do you believe you're a brain in the vat?
I'm definitely a brain in a vat. By definition, my brain is in a vat. It's in my skull, and everything I see is
you know that that's not the question I'm asking, and you're being dishonest. So answer the question. Do you believe?
I am a brain in a vat. You are too.
That's not what brain in a vat means in this.
Do not know what solipsism is.
I am a brain in a vat.
That's not what brain. No, you're not.
Yes, I am. My brain is in my skull.
Hold on. Do you know what solipsism is? Can you please describe solipsism to me?
Solipsism is the concept that everything we know to be true is just an illusion created by our minds.
No.
And
it's more that external minds don't exist.
External minds, that we are essentially that our entire existence is essentially a simulation.
Oh my God. Are you a
simulation theory? Simulation theory. That's not
simulation, but it's simulated reality of some kind of construct.
So, do you believe that is true?
I already told you, I am a brain event. My brain is in my skull.
That's not what I'm asking. You just described solipsism to me. Do you believe solipsism is true?
I do not have a belief position on that because I don't have enough information.
Okay, so
you're agnostic,
You're agnostic.
No, I'm not.
about it.
that's what
No,
it
I'm
Because
means.
that hold on, Steve.
Wait. No, hold on. Wait.
Let
You're
me
right,
let me
Cheshire.
answer.
You're right. I am agnostic about it, but I also I am agnostic in regards to my claims to knowledge. And now when it comes to my belief, I don't have a belief statement. I don't believe it's true or false. This is
So
my whole
you
point to
are agnostic because
No, I'm
there
not.
is let me finish. There is a term in philosophy talking about epistemology and your belief system called agnostic. You
Yes,
accept this, yes?
Yes, I already told
So
you
you're
I am agnostic
agnostic.
about it, but there's a separate question to whether or not I believe it's true, because I'm not saying I believe
You
it's
just
true or
completely
false.
ignored
Yeah,
everything I just
okay, so
said.
it's-
You
yeah.
completely did not listen
So
to a
real
single
quick,
word
let
I
me read
just
these
said.
out. Then I have a
I'll get
straightforward
through
question for
this.
Eddie. Then you guys can get the rest. Eddie, Helios for $575. Eddie, what is
By the way,
difference?
thanks for having me on the show, everybody. It was very nice.
No, don't leave yet. Eddie, what is the difference between belief and no? You keep conflating them. Also, not all belief is positive. Negative belief is still belief, which is true. Do you remember the difference between belief and knowledge?
Believe and know.
Yeah, what's the difference?
So I can believe something and not have any knowledge.
What's the difference?
So the belief is the acceptance of a statement.
Okay,
That's true.
right?
And the knowledge is that I have information that it's true.
No, I already gave you the 3 conditions for knowledge. I gave it to you like 10 times. Oh my God, God's auditor $2.
Knowledge
Eddie's
is the
trolling,
facts,
guys. I don't think-
information, and
I don't think
skills
Eddie's-
acquired by
no,
a person
hang
through
on.
experience or education,
Eddie,
theoretical,
do me a
practical,
favor. Don't
standards,
Google
subject.
shit because Google's not going to educate you on these topics. Google is not going to.
I want to know, this is the same as asking what's the difference between ontology and epistemology, and we're already 3 steps way too far to be even able to get to that
God's
question.
auditor-
This is my point to this, is to say, look, you can be agnostic or agnostic about any claim that has nothing to do with religion or with God. This is
fine.
my whole
Eddie,
point.
Because we're talking
not
about
talking
the
about
difference
religion or
between
gods right now.
ontology and epistemology. The question I just asked you was about epistemology, and the position you described to me was agnostic, because there is a term in philosophy that is used in epistemology that describes the position that you gave me, which is agnostic, because you can use the term in epistemology and you can use the term in ontology.
Well, Cheshire, you're actually making my point
do
for me.
reject this.
No, Cheshire, you're actually making the point for me. You're actually demonstrating it's possible to be agnostic about any topic, including
You
the
could be
Easter
any
Bunny.
Nobody has said you can't. Nobody has disagreed with this.
Now this, okay, so this is the whole point of all of this.
Eddie,
to say, look,
put the brakes. Okay, first of all, God's auditor for $2. Like I said, Eddie's trolling, guys. He's not trolling. He just doesn't understand these topics. God's auditor. But Eddie,
I don't think he's trolling.
Eddie, let me explain this to you very clearly. I'm asking you a very simple question to explain, and maybe you'll click on you why you sound really silly. One, okay, there are 3 positions you can have towards any proposition that are rational. 3, okay? 3. You believe it's true?
In epistemology. These are positions in epistemology specifically.
Yes. You believe that it's true?
Because
you believe that it's
I'm going to
false?
squash that one.
Or you have no position either way. Okay? Believe is a disposition, meaning that you hold the proposition true. You can disbelieve it, meaning that you hold the proposition false, which means believes false. Or you can have no position either way and suspend judgment on it, which is agnostic. Those are the 3 things. When we tell you, so
that's
when you
not agnostic.
you've already agreed that was agnostic, that you don't have a position either way.
Agnostic is having a claim of. Listen, if I'm gnostic, I'll have claims of evidence that's true. That's what makes me gnostic.
Okay, let me. I'm just telling you this once and then leave it at that. Eddie.
Yeah.
Agnostic. And Cheshire has told you 10 times this, and you don't understand. Agnostic in ontological domain. Listen very carefully. Agnostic means you do not believe it's true, nor do you believe it's false. Can you repeat that back to me? Not believe true, not believe false. Can you say that? Not believe true, not believe false. Can you say that?
I don't accept that. I don't accept that definition.
I don't care what you accept. I don't care at this point what you accept. That's what it means in philosophy. You can look it up.
It doesn't mean that in philosophy. You're wrong.
Whoa, time out. You just said no, it doesn't mean that in philosophy. Please cite a source for that. Second off, I want to just make sure that we're on the same page because we got to wrap this up. Yeah. So I just want to make sure that this is your position, and I want to make sure that I've gotten correct. So I'm going to describe to you your position about epistemology and the term agnosticism, and you tell me if I am incorrect. I hope I'm incorrect, but this is what I'm understanding. The term agnostic is solely used in ontology. The term is not usable in epistemology. Is that correct? That's okay. That's not what you're saying. Okay, what are you saying? Can the word agnostic be used to describe a belief position in epistemology? Is that yes or no?
Well, hang on, I want to clarify for the audience. When you're saying the ontological domain, we're talking about existence, right? So when we're saying you're agnostic, we're talking about existence of something. That makes it ontological. Okay, so if I say God exists or God doesn't exist, we're asking about an existential question. That's why it's in the ontological domain. Just because you abstain or suspend judgment doesn't necessarily put it in the ontological domain. But it's still suspending of judgment.
Yeah. All right. Let me. Yeah. Okay. Let me rephrase then. Can you've described that, yes, you use the term agnostic to describe how much knowledge you have about something and whether or not you have enough knowledge about something. Can you use the term agnostic in philosophy, in epistemology, or is that not allowed? Or does it not exist?
No, here's the thing. I accept that it exists in both epistemology and ontology, in the ontological approach. So you're dealing with the way. So my whole point is here. Look, this is my whole point. You can be Gnostic or agnostic regarding any subject matter.
Okay, great. Let's concede that and go with that for just arguing because it makes no difference. So do you
That's my whole point.
Do you understand though that an agnostic on a proposition has no position either way? They say I don't have a belief either way. That's what if you go read Dr. Draper and SEP.
No, I don't accept that. Okay, then you're
wrong.
Point.
Okay, we'll go with that. You're wrong because again, I can cite you sources. SEP, go look at it. Go read it on your own time. Okay.
SMP.
You can disagree all you want. You're just fundamentally incorrect. But let me wrap this up by showing you how silly you sound. Ready? I'm going to ask you a question here. Do you believe that I exist?
Do I believe that you exist?
That is the question.
Yes, I believe that you exist.
Okay, great. You believe that I exist. What's your evidence for that?
I didn't say I have knowledge.
I didn't ask you about knowledge. I didn't say do you know. I said do you believe. Now you made a belief claim, a positive claim. What's your evidence for this?
Do I believe that you exist?
You've already answered that. You said yes.
Yes, I believe that you exist. I don't.
Okay, great. What's the evidence?
Hold on 1 second.
Hold on, I have to go ask Matt Dillahunty what he would say.
I'm just going to wrap it up here because I don't want to embarrass him further. But
I'm teasing.
Let me give you some helpful thing that I want Rez to join us real quick, and we have to get.
I am Gnostic, which means I have knowledge that you exist, and my knowledge is I'm having conversations with you.
Eddie, listen very carefully. Again, everything you think you know about this topic, you don't know anything. Just forget it all. Just get tabula rasa. Put everything you think you've learned, and forget it, and start from scratch. I'm telling you, I'm seriously, dude.
He's not telling he's telling you that advice. When you want to he's trying to say that listen, if you think you have this understanding of something, it's beneficial to you because all you're going to do is prove yourself right is to pretend you know nothing and go look at original source. Can you really? Is this a woman thing? Is this because I'm a girl?
Have you been in a debate,
I don't understand what's happening here.
I was trying to get into something before you start talking to Steve.
What?
What?
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying that it's beneficial for you or anybody to, if they think they know a topic and they're having a disagreement with somebody, then pretend you know nothing about the topic. Ignore whatever you think that you know or you do know, however you want to put your knowledge claim, and go to the source and read what the source says without the biases. This is something that people tell religious people to do. Like atheism tells Christian people to do this all the time. Read your Bible objectively. Go find philosophy books and read them objectively. Read them without the bias of whatever you have learned in the past and see if it matches what you've been told. That would be probably one of the best things you could do for yourself. Because all you're going to do, if you think you're right, is prove you right.
Yep, go read about this stuff, man. Segmentation fault for £5. We are sadly witnessing why the new atheism indoctrination is powerful. Must be fought as Stephen Chess do. I agree with you 1,000%. Eddie, no offense, but you have been indoctrinated to believe things that are not true. I'm not trying to diss you. I'm being serious. And be honest here. And be honest. Have you ever read a paper on epistemology?
Yes, I have.
Okay, can you name it?
No.
Then you obviously didn't glean anything from it. It wasn't worth reading. Okay, if you can't even name a paper.
What I want to ask you real quick.
Let me come on. Be honest here. if you haven't, let's say you did hypothetically read a paper, you clearly didn't get anything out of it. So it's a sense it's the same as not reading it, right? So why don't you actually go read these things? Go to the experts, as Cheshire astutely suggested. Don't learn these things from people like Matt Dillahunty or Arn Ra because they don't know fuck all what they're talking about. I assure you this. No philosopher agrees with them on any of this shit. I know these things. I know all these philosophers. I know Matt. I know Arn. You know Matt. You know Arn, right? You don't have the background and the foundations to really to really have these types of discussions. And this is what I'm saying. Go tabula rasa. Just pretend you don't know anything, like Cheshire said. Start from scratch and say, look, I want to learn these things. Go read them. Because this is how new you're basically been indoctrinated just like any theist. Who are you talking to, Eddie?
Sorry.
No, I'm curious. No, I'm curious. Is somebody there with you? Is that Matt with you? Is that Dillahunty?
Get out of here. Listen, I appreciate you guys' time.
Right, well, we appreciate you, man. Can you call in again?
Thing. My thing is this. Look, I accept that you guys are agnostic. Of course.
No, she's an atheist. I'm not
an agnostic.
I understand you're or whatever. I know, Stephen, you say you're agnostic. I understand that. I get that. We're all, yes. But my whole point is we're all agnostic.
No, we're not. She's not agnostic. She straight up says there's no God. She's made it.
This is why. This is the fundamental misunderstanding. You just went. This is okay.
You have no evidence. I'm sorry.
Maybe I can explain this using an analogy.
Well, I know God.
If I say I have faith in something, if you read something from, like, let's say, William Lane Craig or a Christian apologist, and they start describing faith as like just having trust in something, and then they switch and they start saying that that's the same kind of faith as they're talking about with God. No, they're using they're using the same word in two different categories, two different definitions. You agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, so what you just did was say agnostic. I understand that you're agnostic, but everybody's agnostic because you just went from epistemology and belief systems to the domain of talking about knowledge.
Correct.
You've switched halfway through your sentence.
That's exactly what you
That's
did.
why people are disagreeing with you. Yeah. It's not because you're wrong about your position about Gnostic and Gnosticism and when it comes to knowledge. It's that you're applying that position to epistemology, which uses the term differently.
So Cheshire and I, we don't have the same position. I don't have a position on the proposition God exists. She does. She thinks the proposition is false. She believes there's no gods. Now,
I think you guys are using the words ontology and epistemology incorrect.
No, Eddie, please. No offense. No, look, Eddie, no offense.
I know you're using it wrong.
Eddie,
I'm sorry.
Eddie, I literally explained to people
you're
what these terms mean.
You're using the terms incorrectly, dude.
I look forward
to them incorrectly. Are you kidding me?
You are using them wrong, and so is Cheshire. I'm sorry.
I would
love
to. Considering that I didn't use ontology at all in the last sentence, it's entirely a complete detraction. So you do not have to address what I just said.
What? How am I using? What does epistemology mean, Eddie?
What is epistemology?
Yeah. He's got it pulled up on Google right now. He's going to read it to us.
Because Google's smarter than I am.
Oh,
Eddie, and Rez, I promise, Rez, I'll get you in here. Eddie, you're telling me that I'm using these terms wrong. Great. Tell me what epistemology is.
It's concerned with the nature of knowledge.
Okay, and I agree with you. There, I'm using it correct. What about ontology?
It's like regarding how things that exist on like the social world, or how we see things.
And the nature of being, which I said earlier.
Regarding how we see. It's regarding how we see.
No, it's the nature of being. Being. Ontology is being. It's existential.
That's another way to put it for sure. I agree with you on that.
So then we're not using it wrong.
but agnosticism, the term agnosticism or Gnosticism doesn't just disappear when you're talking about the two different perspectives.
Nobody said they did. But you're talking about one thing and you're using the term in this way in this area and then trying to apply your terminology to this area. If I say theory, and I'm talking about just a guess about how I think this movie should go, and then I say use the same meaning when I'm talking about biology, I am using the term incorrectly because I'm applying a colloquial definition to a scientific definition. You're doing the same thing.
Doesn't believe the Easter Bunny exists?
I believe there's no such thing as the Easter Bunny.
You don't deserve to hear it until you get to this point. until you accept that different words have different meanings in different fields of study and acknowledge that agnosticism is one of them, I don't think you're going to be able to have. This is why, why can't we just have a discussion? And why can't we? This is why we can't have the discussion, because you don't know the terms you're using.
All right, we got to wrap this up, then I want to get resin here. So, Eddie, thank you for.
All right,
end my suffering.
Thanks, everybody.
Call us again, and we'll have a discussion on skepticism, Peronian and academic skepticism.
Yes, that's a whole nother topic that we can talk about.
That sounds good. Find me on YouTube, Positively Atheist.
Awesome. Thank you. Push that out. Positively Atheist. All right. Thank you, Eddie. By the way, this was a great discussion, by the way. Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate both. I appreciate all of y'all.
You got it, buddy. All right. Zeshi for 50 secs.
All right, bye.
I know gods don't exist. Not going to explain how here because it would take too much time. Not entirely sure I could explain in a good way. Yeah, that would be, these are complicated things. This is like on Twitter, Zeshi. You see us on Twitter often. It's hard to explain something in 280 characters, right? People can you explain this in a layperson's kind of thing? It's very difficult, some of these concepts. Like we're going to be having a discussion on eigenvalues and eigenstates and matrix theory.
Next time somebody asks me to explain something to them when they want to have a discussion about the thing that they're asking to explain to them, I'm going to whip out my tablet. I'm going to start drawing in crayon.
Yeah, Google. But I mean, you try explaining things like matrix theory in a 280 character thing. Try to explain matrix theory to like this person said, treat me like I'm a second grade or whatever, child and kiss it, kind of thing. These are complicated subjects. And unfortunately, if you don't go do your due diligence and want to learn, most of my audience are well-educated people. They've learned these things on their own, either the didactic or they've gone to college or a combination thereof. But most of them have the want to learn. No offense to like Eddie there, he doesn't want to learn these things. He just says, look, I've heard these things on some YouTube channels. This is the way it has to be. But when he goes to try to look it up in the literature, none of it exists. None of it corresponds to anything he's learned. It's completely different from what he's learned. Will he realize that he's been indoctrinated? Probably not. But you know what?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing that atheists ask people to do with their Bible or their holy book. Go and read it as if you take your bias, take your preconceived notions out of it, and then come into the conversation. Or take your preconceived notions out and then go and read the literature. Because if you're having trouble if you're one of these people and you're having trouble understanding the literature, so you end up getting frustrated and throwing it off to the side and then just deciding to stick with whatever you have already been told, it's because you've been told the wrong thing. That's why this thing isn't matching this thing.
Correct.
So forget this thing. Go look up the basic terms and a basic understanding. If you really need to, use Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is fine for just getting the very bare bones basics. Use that, scroll right down to the bottom where it says all the references, and use the references to track down the information you're trying to learn.
I love the fact that he said I was using ontology and epistemology wrong, but then gave me the exact usages I've been using. That was classic. Dr. Cross says, Steve, you got the black scholar treatment. I don't know if I want to know what that means. You have to
womp womp.
Well, that sounds bad. Anyways, Res Instance.
What we got in here so we can get the hell out of here?
Tom.
Okay,
oh my God.
Sorry,
help
Chesh.
me, guys. Help me, brothers. I'm in a loss.
Oh, that was painful on a whole other level. He was conflating belief and knowledge in such a way that it didn't even relate to each other, and I didn't know that was fucking possible. I'm actually agnostic on the position as to whether or not he has two brain cells to rub together. That whole conversation was nonsense.
Well, but this is new atheism, right? This is what we keep telling people. When you don't have a solid foundation and you have these types of discussions, it's not going to go well for you. I mean, look what happened with Arn and those three Muslims guys, right? It didn't go well for him because he didn't have the foundations to understand what the hell they were talking about. And this is what new atheism, trademark new atheism, not like the Four Horsemen new atheism. This is a very subset of that. But the people that have been indoctrinated to this new atheism type understanding of epistemology and atheism, all this stuff, this is what they sound like. It's no different than a flat earther. It's no different than the young earth creationist. They have no idea what they're talking about. It's the same nonsense.
I was going to say, his kids are probably going to grow up to be fucking flat earthers at this rate. Like,
yeah,
what the fuck?
I don't believe that the Easter Bunny doesn't exist. I'm like, how old are you? Of course I believe there's no such thing as the Easter Bunny. It's myth. It's nonsense.
This is why I've said we're so low on the totem pole of this conversation. At least with Flat Earth, you understand that you're talking about math and you understand the subject that you're in, geometry, and you might not understand math, you might not understand geometry, but at least you know that you're talking about math and geometry. We're in a position where they don't even know that you're talking about epistemology. You don't even know that this is a discussion about philosophy. We have to get there before, and then you've got people saying, well, why can't we just have a conversation? Because you don't know enough about the topic to be able to have the conversation.
Yeah, imagine trying to explain calculus to people if you didn't know what an exponent was. Good luck with that. It's not going to happen. And I had an atheist literally tell me, I'm not even fronting here. They said, what does the God proposition have to do with philosophy? What? How is that not philosophy? That is about philosophy. That's about existential issues.
Steve, you can't ask how is that issues. You can't ask how is that not philosophy because now you're asking them to prove a negative.
that to me is like saying, what does x squared have to do with math? What? It's just absolutely ridiculous. But anyways, Mr. Serious, we've got to get you in here real quick. We got to wrap this up. And Tom, did you want to add anything real quick? Tom, you were in here longer than Mr. Serious, so I got to get you in first. Mr. Tom, buddy, how are you? A lot of people started calling at the end. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I just wanted to break a small lance for etymology, because etymology can inform us about what a term means, but as I learned from you, Steve, the terms can change their meanings over time. So, for example, in school I learned from a professor of mine that infantry, that was etymologically the royal guard that was protecting the infant of Spain. The infant meant ne fare, the person who from the Latin term does not speak, ne fare, infant. So he was the person who would inherit the throne. But nobody nowadays say infantry, that means these people who are protecting the son of the Spanish king. So these terms develop themselves, I understand that. Etymologically, these terms develop themselves.
Yeah, it's called synchronic versus diachronic usages. So a diachronic usage is how a term has evolved over time, right? So some dictionaries, I think it was Oxford, or some of the Oxford dictionaries did explain diachronic usages and say, okay, at this period of time it meant this, at this period of time it meant this, but synchronic means how is it used now? And what like Eddie wasn't understanding, how agnosticism is used now is the position of somebody who has suspended judgment. If he would have read the paper Suspending Judgment by Dr. Drayton Friedman, would have explained it, or Dr. Draper's paper would have explained it, that the position is that you have no position either way.
That would require dropping biases and looking at something objectively.
Right. All right. Thank you for that, Tom.
Yeah, and at the same time, etymology can inform you about how you got to this term and why this term actually means something, how it means, what it means today.
You can definitely use each of these things to navigate your personal justifications or your personal thoughts about things. Like, it's not like, oh, well, epistemology is the only way to approach something. No. This is just the topic. It doesn't mean that you can't use geography to inform you about something to do with evolutionary biology, because where something is can affect its evolutionary process within its biology. So it doesn't mean that, oh, well, if you're talking about this thing, you can only talk about this topic. The other topics inform other topics, and that's fine. But if you don't understand what terminology is being used and what it means in this topic, and you're forcing its usage in this topic into this topic, you're not going to get very far.
Correct.
You're not going to understand what the people are saying in this topic, which is exactly what we saw. He did not understand what we were talking about at all, because he was applying, even though we explained to him that he was applying this definition from this topic in this topic, He was not willing to let go of that baggage, that preconceived definition. And it's the same thing you apply with faith. It's the same thing you can apply with words like believe or words like theory. It's the exact same thing, just shifted to a different area.
And I want something to know. I want everybody to notice something. In all these episodes that we've had so far of Judgment Call, we have not had to hang up on a single caller that we disagreed with.
True facts. We haven't hung up on anybody yet.
I mean, so this weird thing where, oh, look, you disagree with Steve, you're going to get blocked and all this other stuff. No, this I want to make it very clear. This show is about disagreement. We want people to disagree because that's the conversations that we're having. So if somebody who is out there going, don't disagree with Steve, he'll block you. This is evidence that they're full of shit, because I've never been like that, and I will never be like that. I will block people that will not provide the evidence or just trolling and things of that nature. Yes, but if you're an honest discourse, no matter how wrong you are, as long as you're not trolling, we can talk for a very long time. I just don't deal with trolls.
But there's a difference between disagreeing and having a fundamental misunderstanding of what the topic is.
True.
And
right.
also
that's not a.
And also
yeah,
being
it's not
deliberately dishonest about not knowing what the topic is, because he was clearly clueless and didn't want to admit to that.
Yeah. Well, and he had like.
There's this thing that when somebody says, "Oh, you've been disproven in this thing" by somebody who does not understand the topic, how can you possibly disprove somebody in a topic that you don't understand?
Right.
The thing is like you can't. Even if you did, you wouldn't be able to justify it, and so you may as well not have proven them wrong at all, because you can't explain how they're wrong. You might it might be fundamentally true that they're wrong, but if you can't show it, you don't know it. So you haven't done shit.
Josh, what's the first thing he said when you came in here? Do you remember? One of the first things he
People
said.
have proven you wrong. People have shown and proven that you're wrong about this.
And the first question I ask somebody when they say this is, how? And to date, not a single person has been able to answer that question. But okay, we got to wrap this up. We got 2 more people to get to real quick, so make it very quick. Mr. Serious, you got 1 minute, my friend.
All right.
Maybe,
first
maybe
off,
2 because we like you more.
I want to talk about stonks for like an hour.
We're gonna have to get Ruhif on that kind of thing. That's not my jam.
Well, damn. All right. Okay. First off, Chesh, where's our guy who was going to call in because he was so brave?
Oh man, I don't know. Didn't show up.
You talking about Bill?
No, there was somebody else that was going to call in. Didn't show up.
He was so brave. He was telling us about how he's going to call in.
Look, people know they can call in. They get a fair hearing. They get a fair, judgment. We evaluate things very fairly, so there's no reason to be scared to call in. And I think we've shown this. So, and props to people that have. I mean, it's not easy because you are calling under things, and it's not their platform, so it makes it very difficult. I do understand that, so I do give a huge amount of props for people that call in, very much so.
Oh well, I know he listens because he recognizes that I call in a lot, and so. Hi, Mr. Friend. I'm sorry you missed your opportunity to call in the show.
Always next week, right?
Hopefully you'll be able to call in next week. Hopefully you'll find your nuts for next week.
Find your nuts. Damn.
You'll never find them. They're in my handbag.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully you get them out of Trish's handbag.
Last but not least, Paul, did you want to weigh in real quick? Paul, you unmuted. I can see you unmuted. I don't think his mic's working, maybe.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, sorry, Paul. Next week, because we can't hear you, man. Okay, so this, was going to be about an hour. Now we went to...
Can I steal 1 more minute and talk about the guy who you were talking to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think in his entire shtick is that he has a lot to like on the line to believe his shtick because it's so convenient. It's easy. It's atheism on easy mode. And that's what the ACA promotes. It's like, hey, you want to learn philosophy?
Easy atheism.
No, you don't got to do that. No, it's just like Christianity where you don't even have to read the Bible. You can just believe in Jesus and you get to heaven. No, you don't have to worry about nothing. And here's atheism the same way. Agnosticism is knowledge, and in atheism it's belief. It's so easy. It's like a chart. It's so easy. Everything's so easy. Just believe this, and then you can
Mr. Serious,
refute everything.
How many times did he repeat the same thing, no matter what the question was asked of him? It was a parroted, canned, scripted response.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah,
notable. We all noticed this. That's a canned scripted responses.
Instead of saying you have Gnosticism, instead just say you have Matt Dillahunty. Just say that. Don't say Gnosticism.
Way better, but
You have Matt Dillahunty, because it makes you sound much more honest if you say that.
Every one of these, atheists sound exactly like Eddie did. This is what I deal with on Facebook. This is what I deal with on Twitter. Every single one of them sounds exactly that same script. That's exactly like presuppositionalists. When you listen to enough presuppositionists, you know their script. I know the new atheist trademark script. I've dealt with it for how long?
For me,
you notice that he threw out words like truth, because when you said truth, you knew very specifically what you meant. But he was like, well, how do you even know what truth is? And I was like, if we need to take that step far back into the conversation and talk about the definitions of truths, and then the response is, okay, well, which truth are you using? Like, you tell me what theory of truth you're using. And they immediately just blank face.
How do you know that? How do you know that? They'll mock presuppers for doing that, which as well they should, but they're doing the same thing.
Right. They're doing the same thing.
The same thing.
Yeah.
I said this in chat, but it sounded like a sovereign citizen talking to a cop, trying to explain to the cop law.
Well, and look, all I can say is that I hope people, when they watch these things, they see the difference between people that have a little bit of experience or understanding or knowledge. By the way, I am not an expert in these things. I've never claimed to be an expert. When somebody says, oh, Steve's a fraud, how can it be a fraud in something that I've never claimed any expertise on? I think as a layperson, I do know these things pretty well. Why? Because I've actually read them, because I have an interest in this particular topic. Okay? Doesn't mean I'm always right. Doesn't mean that I have any expertise whatsoever. But all you have to do is say, hey, Steve, you're wrong. Here's the citations. Here's the logic. Here's the proof. Blah, 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 blah. And I go, shit, you're right. I will change this. Not that difficult. Anybody can do this if that's the case. Logic is logic. It's not that complicated.
I just noticed that he would accept something in one area and then completely forget that he accepted it, and then over in this area, and then we'd have to do the same thing over again. It's like, you already agree with this.
Well, there was one big tell.
He was too busy Googling definitions.
There was one big tell for me. I know the audience couldn't actually see him, but there was one thing he did multiple times whenever he got backed into a corner, when he got proven wrong, was he did the nervous laugh. That tell is always the one tell when you know a person is not willing to change their position,
and
is not willing.
And there was a lot of deflection.
There were times to repeat the question back for to make sure it's clarified.
The nervous laugh is a very arrogant tell that they are not willing to learn. He was not here to learn anything. He wanted to spill his shit and feel good about himself, and that's it.
But at least,
he was
willing to have the conversation. We'll see if he progresses. I know who he is. You know, I know his.
Yeah, we'll see how he does.
We'll follow up. We'll have a progression to see if he's learning anything next time. Does that sound good?
Yeah. I think that I would like to see a further conversation, to be perfectly honest, and hopefully he will be engaged in that one. That nervous laughter probably is something he should shake. He should come in engaged. He should come in expecting to give and take.
If you want to have a conversation like he was complaining about, that means you have to listen to what the other person is saying and not just be waiting for the other person to finish so you can do the next line of your script about something how many times we had to say that's not what we're talking about, right? So when you whoosh that hard and completely miss the mark on what the conversation is, when you've asked the question about this conversation, then I don't know what else to say to you, but we should get the hell out of here.
Yep.
We've gone way long.
All right, guys. All right, so we're going to wrap this up. So as you guys may or may not know, tomorrow is Doomsday.
Yay!
It is the end of the world for at least one person that we know. But anyways, tomorrow is the hearing, 10 o'clock a.m. I will have live information given to me. I will let you guys know. I may or may not stream. I don't know. We'll see, though. But there's only two options. Kyle shows or he does not show. If he does not show, there'll be an arrest warrant, period. That's 100% guaranteed. If he does show, we'll see what happens.
If you want to see some more elevated conversations, go over to Answers and Reasons and Bearded Heretics channel, because I think Steve's going on there soon. I was on there. We did some pre-recording stuff. Go and check out both of those channels, because there's some interesting stuff coming down the line over there. It's a little bit more higher level. It's still easy to understand. So we still speak mostly in layman's terms and explain what we mean most of the time. So it should still be at like a level that is relatively easy to
And if Answers and Reasons is watching, I've actually added them to the affiliated channels to this channel. You know, you can add them on.
Is that
I've got Reds now, I got Cheshire, and I got Answers and Reasons.
Is that Pacific time?
That is Eastern time, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 Pacific.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, guys, thanks for calling
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here, guys. We're wrapping it up, and we'll see you next.
Thank you for calling.